Chapter 1134. Chin girl, this old man isn't wrong, there is a strong poison in this medicine. I'll only ask you one question, do you believe me or him? Gu Qingzi said in a cold voice. Qin Ning did not hesitate at all as she said, I believe you. All right. A hint of a smile flashed past Gu Qingzi's clear and cold eyes, but it disappeared in a flash, so fast that no one saw it. Dr. Zhang was angry and annoyed. He turned to look out the door, thinking that only the emperor could stop this swindler. But for some unknown reason, Mo Chuan did not appear and even Xiao Si did not come back. Back. Gu Qingzi said without turning his head. He did not say any names, but Zhui Feng immediately jumped up and moved like the wind. In just a few blinks of an eye, he appeared in front of everyone with the large bag Gu Qingzi had brought from the Miracle Doctor Valley. To Gu Qingzi said again. Zhui Feng immediately opened the bag and took out a long soft tube from a small bag. It was unknown what material it was made of, but it was even thinner than a person's pinky finger. Dr. Zhang looked at it without blinking, not knowing what this thing was used for. Gu Qingzi picked up the long tube and used a silver knife to pry open Chu Xiaobai's teeth. Then he slowly placed the long tube into his mouth and down his throat. After a while, he took out a funnel and slowly poured the cold medicine into the long tube. It flowed down Chu Xiaobai's throat. Seeing this, Dr. Zhang's old eyes couldn't help opening wide. He slapped his forehead in regret and thought, I really am stupid. Why didn't I think of using this method to feed him medicine? Because Chu Xiaobai had lost all of his senses and did not know how to swallow it all, not to mention feeding him medicine. The so-called housewife can't cook without rice. No matter how skilled Dr. Zhang's medical skills were, if the patient didn't drink the medicine, there was nothing he could do. Seeing Gu Qingzi slowly feed a bowl of medicine with a large amount of aconite, not leaving a single drop, Dr. Zhang suddenly shivered. This is bad. This medicine was personally brewed by him. If something happened to King Jing and after he drank it, the first person the emperor would cut off would be his head. His forehead was covered in a cold sweat as he stared at Chu Xiaobai without blinking and his legs began to tremble. In his expectations, Chu Xiaobai would be poisoned to death before long. But after a while, Chu Xiaobai on the bed did not move at all and did not react at all. Gu Qingzi couldn't help knitting his brows. He placed his hand on Chu Xiaobai's pulse and carefully felt it again. Old man, decoct another dose of the medicine according to the recipe just now. Double the amount of the medicine. If you dare to mess with the decoction again and cause an accident to the patient, I will hold you accountable. Gu Qingzi suddenly turned around and a pair of cold eyes looked right at Dr. Zhang. Dr. Zhang suddenly trembled. He thought that this young man was really strong, he even noticed that he had secretly cut the medicine by half. Dr. Zhang, please make the medicine according to Mr. Gu's prescription and please believe in Mr. Gu. With him here, Xiaobai will definitely be safe. You can be assured that no matter what happens, I will take responsibility for it. Chen Ning's eyes fell onto Dr. Zhang's face, seeing his nervousness, fear and worry. She knew what Dr. Zhang was worried about and what Dr. Zhang thought of Gu Qingzi. Chapter 1135. Dr. Zhang nodded and turned to leave. After a while he came back with a bowl of medicine that had just been brewed. Although he had reduced the dosage by half, there was still a large amount of aconite. After Chu Xiaobai took it, although he did not get any better, the good thing was that it did not get worse. This filled Dr. Zhang's heart with a trace of hope. Perhaps this strange medicine could really save His Highness King Jing'an's life. Your Highness, the amount of aconite in this bowl has doubled, what do you think? Dr. Zhang first asked for Qin Ning's opinion. Qin Ning took it without any hesitation. She walked in front of the bed and blew on it. Then she copied Gu Qingzi's method and slowly poured it into the funnel. Gu Qingzi looked at her. Little girl Qin, do you believe me this much? Does the old man and the little monkey think I'm a swindler? His voice was filled with a hint of self-mockery. Dr. Zhang's old face couldn't help turning red. He knew that the old man was talking about him and the little monkey was talking about Xiao Si. Qin Ning said word for word, Master, I believe you can save Xiaobai. As soon as the word Master entered his ears, Gu Qingzi felt every pore on his body become comfortable. His originally ice-cold hostility instantly disappeared without a trace. All right, since you called me master, I'll show off my skills and let that old man see if I'm the real deal or if I'm not worthy of my reputation. Gu Qingzi nodded at Dr. Zhang. Old man, come here. Dr. Zhang looked at Chu Xiaobai in fear. He was thinking this King Jing'an had just taken 150 grams of aconite. With such a heavy poison, how could he withstand it? Wouldn't he bleed from his 7 orifices and die? He heard Gu Qingzi call him and he absent-mindedly walked forward. Try the pulse on his left hand, Gu Qingze said. Dr. Zhang slightly reached out his right hand to take his pulse. After a while, his white beard moved and his brows rose up, revealing a shocked expression. There's a pulse, he shouted in a surprised and happy voice. Although Chu Xiaobai's pulse was very weak, so weak that he couldn't feel it, he had still felt it. Hearing this, Chen Ning and Zhui Feng revealed expressions of relief. Although Dr. Zhang was pleasantly surprised, he still couldn't understand why such a heavy amount of aconite was given to a weak patient. Not only did the patient not die, it even turned around. What kind of reasoning was this? He opened his mouth, wanting to ask Gu Qingze for guidance. But thinking about how he had mocked the other party and how he didn't put the other party in his eyes, he was filled with shame and he couldn't say the words that came to his mouth. Chin girl, do you know why the aconite in my prescription is so heavy and the poison is so strong? But after he ate it, he didn't die and instead immediately got better. Gu Qingze did not look at Dr. Zhang at all, rather he looked at Chen Ning with a questioning gaze. Chen Ning thought for a bit and replied, Chin there is, I there, I there, Chin, there. Chapter 1136. Without strong medicine, how can a serious illness be cured? He suddenly remembered that his respected master had once taught him that he couldn't rely on books when practicing medicine. He had to bravely prescribe medicine and when necessary he had to use strong medicine. He suddenly remembered that his teacher had also earnestly taught him that when practicing medicine, one should not be too rigidly bound by books. One should boldly prescribe medicine, and when it was necessary, one should use strong medicine. This was the first time he had thought of these words after several decades. He remembered that when he first left his master's tutelage, he also wanted to firmly remember his master's teachings. But as he grew older and his medical skills became more profound, he rarely remembered his master's teachings. He rarely prescribed strong or dangerous medicines. Later on, when he entered the imperial hospital, he did not seek to be meritorious, but only to not make mistakes. The prescriptions he prescribed were all extremely gentle and nourishing, and he had long forgotten his master's words. Hearing Chen Ning's words at this time, he once again remembered his master's words. Thinking of all the prescriptions he had written over the past few decades, he couldn't help sweating profusely and feeling extremely ashamed. But he quickly raised his old eyes and looked at Gu Qingze with a shocked gaze. Gu Qingze was currently performing acupuncture on Chu Xiaobai. His acupuncture technique was very fast, but each needle was very clear, not having the slightest mistake in identifying the acupuncture points. He used many different methods to place the needles, sometimes fast and sometimes slow, sometimes yin and sometimes yang. His 10 fingers danced in the air and Dr. Zhang was stunned seeing this. Dr. Zhang was most proud of his acupuncture techniques, but at this time he found that the acupuncture techniques he knew, compared to this junior in front of him, couldn't even be compared to carrying someone else's shoes. Gu Qingze changed 7-8 acupuncture techniques in a row and Dr. Zhang found that he could only recognize 2-3 of them. As for the other acupuncture techniques, it was his first time seeing them and he couldn't take his eyes off them. His heart was beating fast in his chest and his hands were trembling. His expression was becoming more and more excited. Gu Qingze looked at Gu Qingze and said, "Divine Doctor's wonderful hands. Divine Doctor's wonderful hands." His mind was filled with these 4 words. The people present all stared at Gu Qingze applying the needles on Chu Xiaobai, but there was no one more shocked than Dr. Zhang. This was because he was personally witnessing a peerless doctor displaying his divine acupuncture techniques. He was filled with excitement and didn't dare to blink, afraid that he would miss something if he blinked. At this time, how could he still doubt that the young man in front of him was a swindler? He was the world's #1 divine doctor. Other than him, where else in this world would have this kind of divine skill? Dr. Zhang's eyes filled with excitement as tears came out. Being able to personally witness the divine doctor's acupuncture techniques, he had no regrets in this life. At this time, there was a burst of noise coming from the courtyard outside. "Quick, go in and capture that divine doctor swindler. The Empress Dowager has ordered us to quickly capture the divine doctor swindler." Gu Qingze was completely focused on performing acupuncture, not paying attention to the outside world at all. Dr. Zhang was completely focused on watching, not even blinking. He didn't hear the sounds coming from outside at all. Chen Ning slightly knit her brows and looked at Zhui Feng on the side. "Zhui Feng, no matter what happens, you can't let anyone come in and disturb my master's rescue." She knew that this was a critical moment and she couldn't be disturbed at all. Chapter 1137. Xiaoxi, what are you doing? Zhui Feng shouted with an unkind expression. Zhui Feng, I'm under the Empress Dowager's orders to catch that swindler divine doctor, to prevent King Jing'an from being killed by him. You've all been tricked by him. Xiaoxi raised his head and puffed out his chest, speaking in a righteous manner. What swindler divine doctor? You can't be rude to Mr. Divine Doctor. The Divine Doctor is currently saving someone, so if you dare disturb Mr. Divine Doctor and the Emperor finds out, you'll be the first to not be let off. Does the Emperor know that you've brought people here? Zhui Feng blocked the door and coldly looked over the surrounding guards. Then he looked away and looked at Xiaoxi's face. Xiaoxi shook his head and said, The Emperor has an important matter to attend to, so he doesn't have time to see me. I've reported this matter to the Empress Dowager and the Empress Dowager has immediately sent down an edict for me to capture someone. Zhui Feng, move aside. Could it be you want to defy the edict? Zhui Feng blocked the door and did not move. Zhui Feng, Dr. Zhang said that cripple is a swindler, don't fall for his trick. Xiaoxi said again. Mr. Divine Doctor is not a swindler. If you don't believe me, you can personally take a look. After he fed King Jing'an 2 doses of medicine, King Jing'an already has a pulse. He is currently performing acupuncture for His Highness, so none of you are allowed to disturb the Divine Doctor. This is the Empress orders. Xiaoxi, you only listen to the Empress Dowager's orders, but do you not listen to the Empress orders? What? King Jing'an has a pulse? Xiaoxi's eyes opened wide as he revealed a look of disbelief. Behind Xiaoxi was a large group of doctors from the doctor yard. They were all under Empress Dowager Zhou's orders to check Chu Xiaobai's illness. Hearing this, they were all like Xiaoxi, their mouths wide open. In this period of time, their hair had all turned white because of Chu Xiaobai's illness, but no one could do anything. Everyone knew that King Jing'an wouldn't be able to make it. He was relying on the qi in his body to keep himself alive. If there was no one to give him qi one day, he would quickly die. Hearing that King Jing'an had a pulse at this time, the doctors could not believe their ears. At this time, Dr. Zhang's shocked voice suddenly came from the room. His eyes were filled with shock. He's breathing. King Jing'an, he's breathing. The voice was filled with surprise and joy as well as disbelief. The doctors outside the room were filled with excitement as they impatiently rushed into the room. In their eyes, the living dead not only had a pulse but they were also breathing. This was equivalent to a miracle in the history of medicine. The one treating King Jing'an was definitely the #1 divine doctor in the world. This was a once-in-100 years chance to learn and observe, so they had to personally witness it. But the doctors were all blocked by Zhui Feng outside the door. The Empress ordered that no one is allowed to go in and disturb the miracle-working doctor. If anyone disobeys, I won't be polite. Wen said coldly. The doctors heard this and they all moved back. They all revealing looks of Qing Feng. It was still Dr. Zhang who had the good fortune, being able to see the divine doctor save someone in the room. Why didn't he have such good luck? With he, Qing and Qing Feng, Qing he, Qing Feng he, Qing Feng Ling. With a single glance, he immediately became motionless like a clay statue or a wooden statue. Chapter 1138. When the royal guard saw this, they all looked at Xiaoxi. Brother Xiaoxi, the Empress Dowager wants us to catch the divine doctor, but this divine doctor doesn't seem like a swindler. Do we still follow the Empress Dowager's orders? Someone asked. Xiaoxi scratched his head. He was also confused. Dr. Zhang personally told him that the divine doctor was a swindler, so how did the swindler become the divine doctor now? You guys wait here, I'll go in to take a look. Xiaoxi walked in front of Zhui Feng and saw the other side blocking the door with a calm face, not even looking at him. He said with a smile, Zhui Feng, let me go in and see if the divine doctor is a swindler or not. Zhui Feng gave a snort and said, Mr. Divine Doctor was personally invited by the Empress. Do you think the Empress would invite a swindler to save King Jing'an? You've been rude and disrespectful to the Divine Doctor, offending him. If he leaves in anger, can you take responsibility for the consequences? Xiaoxi was startled and looked behind Zhui Feng. He saw Dr. Zhang changing his arrogant attitude and respectfully standing by Gu Qing's side. His respectful expression was like a disciple facing a strict master, not daring to even take a deep breath. If he didn't see it with his own eyes, Xiaoxi would never have believed that this was real. At this step, how could he still suspect that Gu Qingze was a swindler? Big brother Zhui Feng, it's all Xiaoxi's fault. My heart was covered and I actually misunderstood the divine doctor. I'll go in and apologize to the divine doctor. He said with a face filled with fear. No need. The divine doctor is a magnanimous person and won't bother with a little monkey like you. Just obediently wait outside and don't disturb the divine doctor saving people. Zhui Feng said in a cold voice before suddenly asking, "Why did the Empress Dowager send someone? Where is the Emperor?" Shaoxi swallowed a mouthful of saliva and rubbed his nose. He said in a low voice, "A large matter has happened in the palace and the Emperor is busy dealing with it. I didn't dare disturb the Emperor, so I went to report to the Empress Dowager." "What large matter has happened?" Zhui Feng's expression couldn't help tensing up. Shaoxi was about to open his mouth, but he looked around and closed his mouth. Zhui Feng immediately understood his meaning. There were too many people. It seemed like this matter was not only a large matter, it was also a secret matter. He immediately felt his heart clench, wishing that he could immediately rush back to the palace and help the Emperor. But when he turned back to look at the situation in the room, he stopped in his tracks. Gu Qingze had already placed acupuncture on over 700 acupuncture points on Chu Xiaobai's body, including the 50 extra acupuncture points. Half of this acupuncture technique was learned from the Ghost Gate 13 needles that Chen Ning gave him. Even he had tried this acupuncture technique for the first time, so how could Dr. Zhang not have seen it before? His eyes were dazzled and his heart was filled with shock. After the acupuncture, not only did Chu Xiaobai recover his breathing, his eyelids were also slightly moving, showing signs of waking up. Seeing this scene, Dr. Zhang's eyes almost popped out and the jaws of the doctors outside the window all fell down. Everyone's eyes were glued to the scene. Chapter 1139. Eh? Why is it like this? Zhui Feng couldn't help letting out a soft cry. This turn of events caused everyone's hearts to leap to their throats. Dr. Zhang looked at Gu Qingze and moved his lips. He wanted to ask something but he felt it was too sudden, so he could only look at Chen Ning. "Master Xiaobai, he. What happened to him?" Chen Ning looked at Chu Xiaobai without blinking as tears filled her eyes. She had just seen the hope of recovery from Chu Xiaobai's body, but who would have thought that his illness would suddenly take a turn for the worse? Gu Qingze took his hand back from Chu Xiaobai's wrist, but his expression was still as calm as before. "He's so young, what is it that he can't accept?" He gently shook his head as his eyes revealed a puzzled look. "Master, what do you mean by this?" Chen Ning wiped away her tears and looked up at Gu Qingze. Gu Qingze shook his head again. He has already regained consciousness, but his consciousness is resisting waking up. He has this kind of change because he doesn't want to live at all. In other words, he is seeking death. When the people inside and outside the room heard his words, their expressions all changed. Dr. Zhang couldn't help nodding. Gu Qingze's words were exactly the same as his previous judgment. No matter how skilled a doctor was, it was hard to save a person that wanted to die. Chu Xiaobai's case was the most headache for doctors and the most difficult patient to treat. "Master, you can save him, right?" Chen Ning forcefully bit her lower lip and her face turned pale. She knew better than anyone why Chu Xiaobai's heart was like dead ashes and he wanted to die. No matter who it was, after being betrayed and used by the person they trusted the most, they would be as disheartened as him, not to mention that there was still such a deep pain in his heart. He indeed didn't want to wake up, he wasn't willing to wake up and face all of this. He just wanted to hide in an unconscious world, or perhaps he wanted to leave this world forever. But no matter what, she couldn't let Xiaobai die like this. Of course. Gu Qingze's two soft words lit up Chen Ning's eyes once again. "With me, Gu Qingze here, even if he wants to die, would it be that easy?" Gu Qingze raised his pen and wrote a prescription, giving it to Dr. Zhang. "Boil the medicine according to the prescription, the faster the better." Dr. Zhang was so excited that his hands began to tremble. He held the prescription like it was a treasure that fell from the sky. He looked it over several times, remembering the amount and usage of each medicine in his heart. Although there were still 2 herbs in the prescription that he thought were impossible to take, he meticulously decocted the herbs according to the prescription and then brought it in. "Master, Xiaobai's body is burning hot, which should be a sign of a high fever. However, I saw that the medicine you gave him did not reduce his fever and instead used a large amount of heat medicine. Why is that?" Although Chen Ning did not understand medicine, she knew the effects of each medicine. Her question was also the same question that Dr. Zhang and the other doctors had in their hearts. If they were to prescribe this medicine, they would definitely prescribe cooling medicine to reduce the fever. They would definitely not do the opposite. Wasn't using a large amount of hot medicine for a fever the same as adding oil to the fire? But no one dared to doubt Gu Qingze's medical skills at all, they were just puzzled. Hearing Chen Ning's question, they all perked up their ears. Chapter 1140. What? Other than Ning, everyone here took in a cold breath as they looked at Gu Qingze with a look of disbelief. The bowl in Dr. Zhang's hand almost fell to the ground. Ning couldn't help rolling her eyes at Gu Qingze. Can't you speak properly? Gu Qingze said unhurriedly, it's common knowledge in medicine to use cooling medicine to reduce a fever. But now he suddenly has a fever, and it's not because the evil fire in his body has risen, but because he subconsciously doesn't want to live anymore. If he uses cooling medicine to reduce his fever at this time, it's the same as pouring water on a red-hot soldering iron, and he'll soon die. I'm using a large amount of hot medicine right now, it can force out all the heat in his body. It won't take long for his fever to reduce. So it's like this. The doctors all revealed looks of understanding. Dr. Zhang was even more relieved as he quickly placed the bowl of medicine in front of Gu Qingze. Gu Qingze did not take it and nodded at Ning with his chin. If there's anything, a disciple will do it. You want to take me as your master, is that just something you said? It was clearly you who asked me to take you as my master, alright? Ning couldn't help silently criticizing him. But she still took the bowl of medicine. Alright, I'll feed him the medicine. Chu Xiaobai had already recovered his breathing and his pulse had become much stronger. He was no longer a living dead person that had no feelings at all. So there was no need to use a tube to feed him the medicine. She scooped up a small spoonful of medicine and slowly fed it into his mouth. Chu Xiaobai's throat moved and he slowly swallowed the medicine. The doctors were surprised and happy. Almost everyone was looking at Ning with eyes filled with envy. The godly doctor actually said he wanted to take her as his disciple? This was an honor they could never have dreamed of. If the godly doctor was willing to take her as his disciple, even if she wasn't his disciple, just giving her a few pointers would be enough for her medical skills to greatly increase, giving her endless benefits. Dr. Zhang's eyes were filled with passion. The mysterious acupuncture technique that Gu Qingze had displayed in front of him had completely convinced him. In his eyes, Gu Qingze was no different from a god. He suddenly knelt in front of Gu Qingze with a thud, giving everyone a big fright. Godly Dr. Gu, this old man also wishes to take the godly doctor as his master. With him recommending himself, the jaws of the doctors all fell down. They looked at him with envy and jealousy, wishing they could be the one kneeling in front of the godly doctor. In the room, Zhui Feng, Xiao Ru and Xiao Si all felt this was funny. Dr. Zhang had white hair and Gu Qingze was only in his early 20s. In terms of age, Dr. Zhang was more than old enough to be Gu Qingze's grandfather, but now he was kneeling in front of Gu Qingze with a sincere expression, saying he wanted to take him as his master. But Ning and the other doctors were filled with respect for Dr. Zhang. With Dr. Zhang's status and medical skills, he didn't need to be this respectful to a young man. He actually didn't care about his age and status, bowing his head to Gu Qingze as his master. This showed how firm his heart was in learning medicine. This kind of attitude of living and learning made all the other doctors blush with shame. They recalled that ever since they entered the Imperial Academy of Medicine, they rarely went to read medical books and rarely tried to improve their medical skills. Everyone thought that their medical skills had already reached the peak. If they didn't advance, they would fall back. Ever since they started working in the doctor yard, they had only treated the royal family members, so they rarely came in contact with hard-to-treat illnesses. Usually when they were sick, they could easily cure them. This made them even more arrogant. Chapter 1141. Old man, I won't take you as my disciple. Gu Qingze sat in the chair and softly looked at Dr. Zhang. His face was still calm. You have a big beard and you're already this old. If you say you're my disciple, wouldn't others laugh at me? Dr. Zhang's face was filled with disappointment as he awkwardly scratched his head of white hair. With a self-mocking smile, he said, "That's right, this old man is already old and doesn't have many years left to live. Wanting to study medicine under the divine doctor's tutelage is truly wishful thinking." He trembled as he stood up. However, Gu Qingze's tone changed as he looked at him. "If this old man feels that I'm not a swindler and wants to compare pointers with me, I'm free." "Really?" Dr. Zhang was instantly filled with joy as his wrinkled face turned into a chrysanthemum. He knew that Gu Qingze said it was a competition, but he had already agreed to teach him medicine, so his heart was filled with gratitude. Gu Qingze ignored him. After Qin Ning finished feeding him the medicine, he took Chu Xiaobai's pulse and then gave a slight nod. Qin Ning wiped Chu Xiaobai's forehead and found that after taking the medicine, his body was covered in sweat and his temperature was much higher than before. However, not long after, he began to sweat less and his body temperature slowly fell. His breathing became calmer and calmer, making his heart incomparably happy. Gu Qingze looked at her. "Girl, you don't need to be happy so quickly. As the saying goes, if the king of hell wants you to die at midnight, who dares to stay until midnight? Do you think he has been saved just like this? Do you think he would willingly come back to life?" Qin Ning's heart suddenly sank. She looked up and asked, "What do you mean by this?" "If we don't remove the will to die in his heart, his illness will continue to recur. Girl, do you know why he is seeking his own death at such a young age? He is King Jing and he is young in his appearance. It was okay in the past, but now he is ugly. He can get whatever he wants, so why can't he accept it?" Gu Qingze shook his head, looking like he couldn't understand. Qin Ning bit her lips, hesitating to speak. "This is bad, divine Dr. Gu, quickly look. King Jing and he's trembling." Dr. Zhang pointed at Chu Xiaobai and shouted. Gu Qingze and Qin Ning turned around and found that Chu Xiaobai's teeth were tightly clenched and his face was blue. His lips were white without a trace of blood and he was shivering. "Hehe, as expected. Since you want to die, I won't let you die. If you don't believe me, let's give it a try. Let's see who wins." Gu Qingze stood up from his chair and walked in front of Chu Xiaobai's bed. Seeing this, everyone was stunned. This, wasn't this genius doctor a cripple? How could he walk? Xiaoxi was even more stunned. He turned to look at Zhui Feng with a questioning look on his face. "Zhui Feng, he is not lame." Before he finished, he was interrupted by Zhui Feng's cold gaze. "Little four, if you dare speak nonsense again, I'll beat you into a cripple." Zhui Feng snapped. Little four hurriedly covered his mouth. After Gu Qingze took her pulse, he wrote another prescription without saying anything else. Not long after taking this medicine, Chu Xiaobai no longer shivered, but other problems quickly appeared. Gu Qingze had a cold expression as he continued to write different prescriptions. Chapter 1142. Ever since Qin Ning knew him, she had rarely seen him this angry. But Gu Qingze's expression was very ugly right now. It could be described as flustered and exasperated. He wasn't angry that he couldn't cure Chu Xiaobai's illness, but rather he was angry that a good person like him was seeking death. Alright, then he would compete with this fellow. He wanted to see if his medical skills were better or if this fellow was more determined to die. Gu Qingze, finally found a good seedling and wanted to take her as my successor, but you brat just had to give me medicine. You don't believe that I can't cure you, right? Let's see if Gu Qingze, will King Yama dare to take you into his palace if I don't agree? Gu Qingze wrote a prescription while explaining to Qin Ning why he had to use the medicine like this, as well as some of the key tricks to curing the illness. Qin Ning remembered every word he said. She knew that although she didn't understand it now, this was a very valuable clinical experience. When the doctors on the side heard Gu Qingze's words, they felt like they had gained a lot. They all had excited expressions as they stood outside the room with pen and paper. Whatever Gu Qingze said, they would write it down. Moreover, they had personally witnessed how Gu Qingze had saved Chu Xiaobai from the gates of hell again and again in this dangerous situation. Each of his prescriptions had opened everyone's eyes. He really was worthy of being the #1 divine doctor in the world. The doctors all admired Gu Qingze from the bottom of their hearts. Encountering these complicated conditions, they couldn't even handle a single one of them, but no matter what problem Gu Qingze encountered, he could always quickly think of a way to cure them. The difference between a great doctor and a famous doctor was just this. Unknowingly, time flew by. From dusk to late night, from late night to dawn. Gu Qingze had already been busy for an entire night. The doctors had also been waiting for an entire night. They stood in front of the window, feeling so sleepy that they couldn't move their eyelids. Dr. Zhang was already old, and adding in the fact that he hadn't slept for several days, he couldn't hold on any longer. He leaned against the chair and fell into a deep sleep. Chen Ning stayed by Chu Xiaobai's side the entire time. It had been almost 4 hours since he took the medicine, and he had been sleeping very peacefully in these 4 hours. There were no other sudden problems, and his condition was very stable. Little girl Chen, you've been tired for an entire night, so go sleep. I'll just watch over this brat. According to your master's estimation, this brat shouldn't cause any more trouble. Gu Qingze's lips curled up and a faint smile appeared on his face. This was a proud and victorious smile. I'm not tired, the one who's really tired is you. I'll stay here to watch over Xiaobai. Master, you should go rest. Chen Ning sincerely looked at Gu Qingze, her heart filled with gratitude. She had seen how hard it had been for him this day and night. It was him who used all his effort to save Chu Xiaobai, allowing Chu Xiaobai to be safe. It was him who created an impossible miracle. Eldest Miss, Mr. Godly Doctor, this servant has cooked some porridge, would you like to have some to fill your stomach? Xiaoru quietly came in with a tray in her hand. There were 2 bowls of green rice porridge on it, releasing a fragrant smell. Xiaoru, thank you, you're really careful. I'm also hungry. Master, why don't you eat a bowl? Chen Ning smiled at Xiaoru and placed a bowl of porridge in front of Gu Qingze. Chapter 1143. Chen Ning nodded. She was indeed very tired, and adding in the fact that Chu Xiaobai's condition was very stable, it made the large stone in her heart fall down. After she finished eating the porridge, she leaned back in the chair and used her arm to support her head. She wanted to close her eyes to rest, but she soon fell asleep. Just as she was half asleep, a pair of strong arms suddenly hugged her, and a familiar cool aura with a faint smell of morning dew surrounded her. It was like she had returned to a familiar and firm embrace. Emo Chuan? She softly said. In her dream she saw Emo Chuan again. That pair of eyes that were as black as ink were looking at her with a deep and focused gaze. She couldn't help falling into the whirlpool of his eyes, sinking into it and not wanting to wake up again. She leaned into the familiar embrace. Not only did she not open her eyes, but she also felt particularly at ease and slept even more soundly. A warm and soft thing was pressed against her forehead and a familiar aura slowly drifted over. She couldn't help giving a soft sigh. Her lips slightly curled up and she revealed a sweet smile. In her dream, Emo Chuan was gently kissing her forehead. His lips were just like before, warm and soft. Who are you? Let go of her. Suddenly a discordant voice rang out. Following that, someone grabbed her right arm and forcefully pulled. But the man who held her tightened his hold on her. Who are you? Let go of her. The voice became even colder. It seemed like Emo Chuan's voice. Chen Ning was suddenly startled and she suddenly opened her eyes. The first thing that came into view was a familiar face, extremely handsome brows, and a cold aura that emanated from his body. It really was Emo Chuan. She had already returned to the capital city for a day and a night, but Emo Chuan had not appeared at all. Although Chen Ning did not ask, she knew that Emo Chuan had something important to do, otherwise he would have appeared. She really wanted to know what had happened, and she knew that the most important thing right now was to save Chu Xiaobai, but in her dream she couldn't help dreaming of him. For a moment she couldn't tell if she was dreaming or if she was really seeing Emo Chuan. She found that she was tightly held in Emo Chuan's embrace and her right arm was being forcefully pulled by Gu Qingze. The 2 men were facing each other like 2 fighting cocks staring at each other. Chen Ning was a bit confused, not knowing what was going on. She blinked and softly said, Emo Chuan? Emo Chuan quickly looked down at her and his eyes were filled with a familiar passion. He looked at her with surprise and joy and said in a voice filled with disbelief, Ning, you're awake? Chen Ning's sense of reality became even stronger. She was already sure that she wasn't dreaming and that Emo Chuan was really here, tightly hugging her. Chen Ning, who is he? Gu Qingze knit his brows and looked at Emo Chuan with an unfriendly expression. He just leaned against the bed and took a nap. When he opened his eyes again, he saw a tall, unfamiliar man suddenly appear in the room. No one knew when he had appeared and no one asked anything. Chapter 1144. A burst of anger came from Gu Qingze's chest. Such a bold lecher, actually taking advantage of his beloved disciple and doing it right in front of his eyes. Did he think that his master was easy to deal with? Although he didn't know martial arts, he knew that this black-clothed man that suddenly appeared was a martial arts expert, but he was not afraid at all. His right hand gently pulled on the armrest of the chair, and with a so sound, a bunch of black hair needles shot out at the black-clothed man. Who would have thought that this black-clothed man's martial arts would be this good? His hidden weapons had been sent out by surprise, and his back was facing the black-clothed man, but it was like the man had eyes on the back of his head. His figure gently floated to the side and the large bunch of needles hit empty air, but he was not injured at all. Gu Qingze jumped out of the chair and charged in front of the black-clothed man. He reached out to grab Chen Ning's right arm and angrily shouted at the black-clothed man. Ning, who is he? Emo Chuan also asked. Chen Ning looked at Emo Chuan and then at Gu Qingze. Seeing their tight faces and the flames that shot out from their eyes, she suddenly felt a headache coming on. Emo Chuan, put me down first. She came down from Emo Chuan's embrace and looked around the room. Only then did she find that other than the unconscious Chu Xiaobai on the bed and the sleeping Dr. Zhang leaning against the chair, there were only the three of them. Zhui Feng, Xiao Si and Xiao Ru had all disappeared. When they saw Emo Chuan appear, they all quietly left. Qin Ning cleared her throat. Emo Chuan, this is the #1 divine doctor in the world, the ancient divine doctor that I invited back this time. She looked at Emo Chuan and a faint blush appeared on her face. Master, he is my husband also. Also. She hesitated a bit, not knowing if she should say Emo Chuan's identity. Because on the way here she had not told Gu Qingze that she was the current empress. She was not sure how Gu Qingze would react if he knew this. Emo Chuan's eyes turned cold as he stared at Gu Qingze. You call him master? Is he really the #1 divine doctor in the world? His tone was the same as when Zhui Feng and Xiao Si saw Gu Qingze for the first time. As soon as he saw Gu Qingze, his first reaction was, so young? How could he be the #1 divine doctor in the world? He must be a swindler. Ning must have been tricked by him. She actually recognized him as her master? His chest filled with rage. Emo Chuan's domineering aura unknowingly appeared. Even the most senior ministers in the court did not dare take a deep breath in front of him. But it seemed like Gu Qingze did not feel his pressure at all. He raised his chin and looked at Emo Chuan with a disdainful gaze. His voice was just as cold and arrogant as Emo Chuan's. Chin girl, he is your husband? Ning, are you done of him? Chapter 1145. Oh, who's calling me? Dr. Zhang heard someone mention his name in his sleep and his white beard trembled as he drowsily opened his eyes. It's King Jing'an. Did something happen to King Jing'an? He was most worried that Chu Xiaobai's injuries would change again, so he was worried even in his dreams. So, when he opened his eyes, he looked at Chu Xiaobai on the bed and found that he was sleeping very peacefully. His heart that was in his throat instantly fell down. He looked at Emo Chuan in the room and quickly got up from the chair, preparing to kneel down and kowtow. This old minister greets. Before he finished, Emo Chuan had already cut him off. He raised his right hand and a gentle force supported his knees, not letting him kneel down. No need to be so polite. Emo Chuan could see that Dr. Zhang's eyes were completely red and his expression was filled with exhaustion. It was clear that in order to save Chu Xiaobai, he had already done his best and his heart was filled with gratitude. Dr. Zhang, how is Xiaobai's condition? Actually, even if he didn't ask, Emo Chuan could see that Chu Xiaobai's condition was much better than before. He could already see Chu Xiaobai's chest slightly moving up and down, he could already breathe on his own. King Jing'an's condition has already stabilized and his pulse has become very stable. Last night was truly dangerous, it's all thanks to Gu. Dr. Zhang checked Chu Xiaobai's pulse again and revealed a look of joy. He was prepared to praise Gu Qingze's medical skills. Emo Chuan raised his hand and cut him off again. I understand it's all thanks to Dr. Zhang's hard work. Please do your best and help Xiaobai wake up as soon as possible. Dr. Zhang shook his hand and said, No. It's not this old minister, it's all because of Gu. He wanted to say that this was all because of the divine Dr. Gu, but Emo Chuan did not give him a chance to speak. She's tired, so I'll bring her to rest. I'll have to trouble Dr. Zhang to take care of this. After saying this, Emo Chuan's right hand reached out and he picked up Chen Ning. His figure swayed and he had already left the room, disappearing outside. Dr. Zhang looked in the direction Emo Chuan disappeared in and he couldn't help grabbing his beard. This. He could see that the emperor had an unfriendly expression towards Dr. Gu. From the beginning to the end he did not look at Dr. Gu. Moreover, his words clearly showed that he did not believe in Dr. Gu. Divine Dr. Gu, please don't blame me, it's all my fault. It's all because I didn't have time to explain the situation to the emperor. It's all because I didn't have time to explain it to the emperor. It was all because the emperor heard the empress's explanation that he would personally thank the divine Dr. Gu. Gu Qingzi didn't seem to understand his words. He frowned and said, "What did you say?" Then Xin girl, could it be the empress? She. Dr. Zhang said with a nod, "That's right, does divine Dr. Gu not know?" Gu Qingzi stared fixedly at him. His face, which had never changed in 10,000 years, finally showed some ripples. Interesting, truly interesting. I never thought that she would be the empress. Does this mean that I've taken the empress as my disciple? His lips curled up and he revealed a self-mocking smile, but that smile did not reach his eyes and disappeared in a flash. Chapter 1147. Chen Ning found that Mo Chuan's current appearance was indeed angry, but it was very strange. It was clear that he was jealous. As for who he was jealous of, that was the lice on the monk's head. It was clear that other than Gu Qingzi, there was no one else. But why would he be jealous of Gu Qingzi? She didn't do anything to make him jealous, right? Her eyes turned and she suddenly thought of something. The problem must be with her calling him master. Mo Chuan, are you angry with me? She stood in front of him and looked up at him. Her voice was low and gentle, just like a small brush, brushing across his heart. It was ticklish and warm. Mo Chuan turned his head to the side, not looking at her. Chen Ning couldn't help giving a gentle laugh. He looked like a child throwing a tantrum. He didn't look like the ruler of a country at all. He was clearly jealous and throwing a tantrum, but he had to act like nothing was wrong and let her coax him. She slowly moved closer to him, leaning against his warm and firm chest. The sweet scent that belonged to her filled his breath. Although Mo Chuan did not look at her, the jealousy and anger in his heart had unknowingly disappeared. His right arm moved slightly, wanting to grab her waist, but it immediately fell to his side. Chen Ning gave a soft laugh. She raised her hand and turned his face to face with her. "You're the ruler of a country, how could you be so petty?" She muttered in a small voice. Mo Chuan immediately said, "I'm petty? How am I petty? It's clearly you." He glared at her as if he wanted to eat her into his stomach. "What about me? I just called him master. His medical skills are so high and he's the #1 divine doctor in the world, wanting to take me in as his last disciple. This is a blessing that others can't even beg for. I can become the disciple of a divine doctor. Aren't you happy for me? Look at you, your face is no different from a donkey's. If it's not petty, then what is it?" Chen Ning purposely pursed her lips, pretending to be angry. Mo Chuan was so angry that his stomach almost burst from her words. He angrily and hatefully stared at her. After not seeing her for a few days, she already despised him? Did his face look like a donkey's? Did that surname Gu's face not look like a donkey's? Mo Chuan, the divine Dr. Gu's medical skills are very high. You weren't here yesterday, but Dr. Zhang Zhurei and I all saw it clearly. If it wasn't for him using all his strength to save Xiaobai would not have recovered this quickly. Do you know? Xiaobai is already breathing and has a pulse, but he has a fever and a cold. There have been many accidents in one night, but the ancient divine doctor can find a way to cure him every time. He really is a divine doctor. I have never seen a better doctor than him. Oh. Mo Xiao Chuan's words. Xiao Chen was that Chuan's words. Mo was Ning. Hers she did not. He did not want to listen. As he. Chapter 1148. Wu Mo Chuan. Chen Ning's voice came out from under his lips and was completely swallowed by him, not being able to say a single word. Her mind was completely blank because Mo Chuan's fierce and overbearing kiss made it hard for her to breathe. His tongue was like a fish swimming in the deep sea, nimbly entangling the tip of her tongue, making her face turn red. She had kissed him many times, but he had never kissed her so deeply before. That kiss, which was filled with anger and punishment, was more like abuse and more like possession. Was he declaring his sovereignty? Chen Ning's body was tightly held in Mo Chuan's embrace, with not a single gap between the two of them. She was forced to raise her head to receive his kiss, but his large pressure made it hard for her to breathe and her body felt weak. If it wasn't for his large palm holding her waist, she would have already turned into a pool of warm water in his embrace. Unknowingly, the tyrannical and possessive kiss slowly changed. The movements of his tongue became gentle, teasing the tip of her tongue to entangle with him. Her face turned hot and her heart sped up. She couldn't help reaching out to grab his neck, responding to his kiss. In the end, she was met with an even more fierce attack from him. Mo Chuan, let me catch my breath. She pushed him away with great difficulty and took in a breath of fresh air. His lips chased after her again and tightly pressed against her lips. He carried her and walked to the bed to the side. He carried her onto the bed and pressed her down, continuing to kiss her in a domineering and passionate manner. She was trapped like this, unable to break free, and could only endure his kiss. Her face was red and her heart was beating like a little deer. Her long eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings, covering her dark and intoxicated eyes. This kiss of his seemed like he had released all the passion and lovesickness he had accumulated over the past few days. But did he need to be this fierce and domineering? It wasn't like she didn't want him to kiss her. Did he need to be this thirsty? After an unknown amount of time, Mo Chuan finally raised his head and his lips moved away from hers, but his body was still pressed against hers, imprisoning her and making her unable to move. "Speak, does my face look like a donkey's face?" he asked in a stiff voice as he stared at her without blinking. Her face was flushed red like a blooming crabapple flower, incomparably tender and beautiful. Her lips had become moist from his kiss, like a ripe fruit, fragrant and sweet. Hearing this, she raised her eyelashes in shock and widened her eyes. Those slightly widened eyes were especially charming and enchanting, causing the fire that had been suppressed in his body for a long time to suddenly soar. With a poochie sound, she gave a soft laugh. She never thought that he would mind her casual joke this much. "Say, don't we look alike?" Chapter 1149. Mo Chuan was still not satisfied as he continued to ask, "Is his face prettier or is mine prettier?" Qin Ning almost couldn't help laughing. When this man was jealous, he was just like a child that hadn't grown up yet. She was afraid of his fierce and fiery kisses, so she could only obediently soothe him and calm his jealousy. "Of course you're prettier. You're the prettiest man in the world." She thought that there was nothing wrong with these words, but Mo Chuan's face became even uglier. "You've seen all the men in the world, Un?" He threateningly raised his brows. "I." She felt angry and funny at the same time. Why didn't she find out that he was such a difficult man to deal with before marrying him? If she knew it would be like this, she wouldn't have married him no matter what. "Of course not, but in my eyes, there is no one better than you," she said in a soft voice. Then she hooked her arms around his neck and gently kissed his lips. This rare kiss from her made all of Mo Chuan's anger and jealousy disappear. Especially when she said, "There is no one better than you," it made his heart feel sweet and every pore on his body was smiling. "Ning, I missed you very much." He deeply looked into her eyes and kissed her lips again. She raised her head to receive his kiss, feeling a bit scared. She was afraid that he would be as overbearing and direct as before. But this time he became gentle and affectionate. His lips were soft and warm. They slowly deepened and became fiery. The numb feeling spread to her limbs and bones, making her feel ecstatic. This was her Mo Chuan, the gentle and affectionate Mo Chuan. She secretly opened her eyes and looked down at him. His long eyelashes drooped, covering his bottomless black eyes, as well as the boundless affection in his eyes. But his kiss vividly expressed his longing and affection. His face was handsome and his nose was straight. His breath intertwined with hers and she could feel the surrounding air heating up. She looked at his handsome face in a somewhat infatuated manner, thinking that she wasn't lying. He was just this good-looking, she couldn't get enough of him. Ah! While she was thinking, she suddenly felt a pain on the tip of her tongue. Mo Chuan had actually bitten her. It was unknown when, but Mo Chuan had opened his eyes and his dark eyes were looking at her. Seeing her red cheeks and blurred eyes, he was very dissatisfied. In this kind of sweet and intoxicating moment, she was actually thinking about something else. Could it be that he didn't kiss her well enough? "You're not allowed to like him." He used a domineering and threatening tone. Counting with his fingers, there wasn't much time left until Dr. Zhang said 1 month. He almost couldn't endure it any longer. When she wasn't by his side, he would think about her every day. But she really did come back. Hugging and kissing her like this, the temperature rose rapidly. The fire in his body burned more and more fiercely, and the anger in his chest had all turned into the fire of passion, burning fiercely. He lowered his head to look at her in his arms. Her cheeks were red and her eyes were watery. She was like a flower blooming under him, making his heart beat faster. "Like who?" Ning was a bit confused. Then she suddenly realized and couldn't help laughing. "You mean Gu Qingze?" Hearing her mentioning that man's name, Mo Chuan chuck. Mo. Why would he want to take her as his disciple? Why did he want to take her as his disciple? Only someone as pure as Ning would believe his lies and think that the other side really wanted to take her in as a disciple because of her talent. But Mo Chuan's eyes did not have a single grain of sand. Gu Qingze? Xiao Xiao? He can forget about using such a method to deceive Ning, era. Chapter 1151. Mo Chuan, after I left, did something big happen in the palace? Chen Ning saw that he wasn't speaking and his brows were tightly knit. She didn't ask about Gu Qingze's matter and immediately thought of the reason why he wasn't here yet. Mo Chuan's heart skipped a beat. This was a good chance to take her away from Gu Qingze's side. That's right, something big did happen and it is very troublesome. Ning, I need you. He held her hand and stared at her. Her heart suddenly skipped a beat. It was rare to see him with this kind of serious expression. Especially when he said, I need you, it made her heart feel sweet and warm. Tell me what happened. Mo Chuan, no matter what happens, I will stand by your side and face it with you. If there is any difficulty, we can solve it together. She looked up and said with a firm expression. All right, but this matter is quite complicated. There are many ears here, so come back to the palace with me first and I'll tell you everything in detail. Mo Chuan held her hand and asked, how is Xiao Bai's condition? That Gu Divine Doctor's medical skills are really as amazing as you say? He spoke with a bit of disbelief. Chen Ning nodded, his medical skills are unfathomable. Chen Ning nodded, his medical skills are unfathomable. Xiao Bai was in danger several times last night and it was all because of him that Xiao Bai was saved. Mo Chuan, I promised him that as long as he cured Xiao Bai, I would take him as my master. He is not a swindler, you don't know how much effort I spent to invite him to the capital city to cure Xiao Bai. If you anger him away and something happens to Xiao Bai, I will never forgive you in this life. Mo Chuan thought that it really was like this. She was already convinced by that fellow surnamed Gu, but he believed that he would have a way to make her give up on the idea of taking him as her master. He declined to comment and looked out the window. Let's go back to the palace first, I have something important to tell you. Alright, wait for me to tell master. Chen Ning saw Mo Chuan's serious expression and knew that the matter he wanted to tell her was very confidential. So she went to the room on the side and asked Gu Qingze about Chu Xiao Bai's condition. Then she told him that she had to temporarily leave. Master, I have something I need to do. I'll have to ask Master to take care of Xiao Bai's condition. Gu Qingze softly looked at her and then turned to look out the window. He saw Mo Chuan's tall figure standing in front of the window with a smile of ridicule on his lips. Little girl Chen, I don't care what your identity is, but do you still remember the conditions you promised me? Chen Ning, I don't care about your identity, Chen Ning said. With Chen Ning's intelligence, she could immediately tell that Gu Qingze already knew her identity. Then go. I'm here, so don't worry. Gu Qingze nodded to her before turning to Dr. Zhang and saying, Old man, my disciple isn't here, so you have to continue helping me. Dr. Zhang was surprised and happy. He raised his beard and said, being able to help the ancient divine doctor is this old man's honor. Divine doctor, please give your orders. Chen Ning walked in front of the bed and deeply looked at Chu Xiao Bai. Right now he was sleeping very peacefully and his pulse was calm. He was completely different from his previous lifeless appearance. Chapter 1152. Xiaobai, you have to get better. I still have a lot of things I want to tell you. You haven't done what you promised me yet, so you can't go back on your word, do you understand? Qinning held his hand. His fingers already had a bit of warmth and were no longer as cold as ice. Chu Xiaobai quietly closed his eyes with a calm expression. Qin girl, he can't hear you right now. If you have anything to say, wait until he's better. Aren't you going to leave? There are people waiting for you outside. Go. Gu Qingze couldn't stand women crying the most. He had an impatient look on his face as he urged her. Chen Ning wiped her tears and forcefully held Chu Xiaobai's hand before turning to leave. Mo Chuan's expression was serious. He did not directly bring her back to the palace, but rather found a place with no one and slowly spoke. Ning, do you know Northern Qi? Chen Ning nodded. She had already heard the eldest princess say that the continent was divided into East Qin, Southern Mountain, West Chu, and Northern Qi. In terms of military strength, East Qin and Southern Mountain were the most powerful. West Chu had been paying tribute to East Qin for many years and had almost become a vassal of East Qin. This made Southern Mountain look at East Qin like a tiger watching its prey, seeing it as a fat piece of meat. They always wanted to take it into their pockets. As for the northernmost country, Northern Qi, it had maintained a neutral attitude from beginning to end. It had diplomatic relations with the other three countries. Although East Qin and Southern Mountain had their eyes on Northern Qi, because of Northern Qi's special location, they did not dare to make any rash moves. After Mo Chuan analyzed the delicate situation of the countries, he said, East Qin and Southern Mountain have not attacked Northern Qi. There is another important reason. In the extreme north of Northern Qi, there is a very rare ore. A light flashed in Chen Ning's mind and she blurted out, profound cold iron stone. She suddenly thought of the prize she had won at the lantern show. Chu Xiaobai said it was an incomparably rare profound cold iron stone. You also know about profound cold iron stone? Mo Chuan was a little surprised and then he shook his head and said, it's not profound cold iron stone is much more precious. The ore produced in Northern Qi is called profound iron stone and it contains profound iron. After refining it into weapons, ordinary iron will become sharp, making it a rare treasure. However, this kind of ore can only be produced by a few snowy peaks in Northern Qi, and the quantity is very small. Northern Qi firmly controls the black iron mine in their hands, and all of the produced black iron is sent to the palace, where the craftsmen appointed by the state are responsible for forging weapons. Thus, the quality of Northern Qi's weapons is the best of the three countries. It is also because of this that Dongqin and Southern Mountain have never dared to invade Northern Qi. Chen Ning's eyes flashed and she said, I think what East Qin and Nan you want the most is the black iron mine in Northern Qi, right? Mo Chuan gave her a look of praise. Not bad, but other than that, they also want the blueprints of Northern Qi's weapons. Not only does Northern Qi have black iron mines, they also have skilled craftsmen that can forge incomparably sharp weapons, such as crossbows. Repeating crossbows? Chen Ning's eyes opened wide. Chapter 1153. But Northern Qi kept the method of forging the crossbow a secret. East Qin and Southern Mountain spent a lot of money to obtain it, but they couldn't get it. What I didn't think was that Northern Qi would suddenly send an envoy to the capital and take the initiative to sell the 5 repeating crossbow blueprint to West Chu. This was something I never dreamed of. Chen Ning noticed that there was no joy on Mo Chuan's face. Instead, he deeply furrowed his brows. She knew that something must have happened. What happened after that? What happened? She asked in a soft voice. Chapter 1154. Mo Chuan said in a deep voice. Chen Ning let out a soft cry. At the time, I was surprised and happy, but I also felt that this matter was too sudden. After this happened, the Northern Qi have always minded our own business, people to poison and our two countries are only acquaintances. They wanted me to hand over the blueprint to suddenly give me such a great benefit. Not let it go. I couldn't help but suspect that they had some ulterior motives, so I didn't immediately agree. I can't explain this even if I have a mouth. The Northern Qi envoy saw that I was hesitating, but the person who stole the blueprint took out clearly caught by them, but he didn't have the blueprint. I carefully looked at it. This is really strange. The blueprint was indeed the method of forging the 5 repeating crossbow. It's hard to say that they didn't want to steal what they were guarding. I would definitely be able to forge a crossbow, so they deliberately set up a diversion. Otherwise, how could they not find the stolen goods on the thief? The Northern Qi envoy gave me a price. Could it be that he swallowed the blueprint into his stomach, but rather a very reasonable one? Said, I also thought filled with joy, but after the black-clothed man committed transaction in 3 days, the Northern Qi emissary would hand over the money and open his stomach. Who would have thought that on the night of the 3rd day, something would suddenly happen? As for the black-clothed man's identity and background, someone would sneak into the Northern Qi guest house. The only thing we can be sure of is that he is from West Chu. That's why the Northern Qi emissary's right hand this was done by West Chu and forcefully swung it. Mo Chuan, there must be a mastermind behind hatred. That black-clothed man was just a pawn used by someone else. First reaction was, Qin Ning said, could it be that the Northern Qi committed suicide by poison to hide the truth for the mastermind? Let me continue. Once he dies, finding the mastermind will be as hard as ascending to the heavens. When I heard the news, my first thought was the same as yours. That's right, but even if we find the Northern Qi envoy deliberately mystifying us and stole it, this was what Emo Chuan was worried about the dirty water on our West Chu. Thought for a bit, but when I found out what happened, I found that the Northern Qi envoy wanted to sell the blueprint. That night, the Northern Qi emissary and everyone in the hostel were poisoned by a strange incense and fell into a deep slumber. I am not familiar with the blueprint of the quintuple-linked crossbow. One of the guards, who had a stomachache, went to relieve himself and showed him this dawn and was not affected by the incense. He is proficient in the art of forging. When he came out, after seeing this blueprint, he is very sure that this blueprint is the blueprint for the quintuple-linked crossbow. He immediately rushed forward and knocked the masked man unconscious from behind. Then he found that everyone in the hostel was unconscious. Pale with very fright, suspicious, he rushed into the room to wake another suspicious person. Emo Chuan took a deep breath and slowly said, "Oh." According to the Northern Qi envoy, he wanted to protect the blueprint and was afraid of losing it, so he stayed in the guest house for 3 days. But on the second day, an unexpected guest came to visit him. That person was. Emo Chuan slowly said, King Ding Yuan Chu Xiaoyang. Chu Xiaoyang? Qin Ning was shocked and looked at Emo Chuan. Chuan Chu Xiao? Chu Xiaoyang? Qin Ning was Chu Xiaoqing. Chapter 1155. They did not know each other, came to visit, sat there for half a day and then left in a hurry. Each and every one of these things was unusual. Then what happened next? Qin Ning looked up at Emo Chuan. Later, I sent soldiers to surround the guest house, not allowing anyone to enter or leave. I did not believe that the blueprint would disappear. The Northern Qi emissary was overbearing and aggressive, forcing me to hand over the blueprint. But the more he acted like this, the more I felt that he had something to do with it. It was very likely that he was a thief-crying thief, but at the same time, Li Zhixing and Chu Xiaoyang were both suspects of stealing the blueprint. Emo Chuan took a deep breath and raised his hand, rubbing his eyebrows. Now I have both Li Zhixing and Chu Xiaoyang under house arrest in the palace, and I have interrogated them, but the two of them do not admit that they had anything to do with the blueprint theft. Li Zhixing said that he was with his family that night and his fifth concubine can testify for him, but Chu Xiaoyang, he is not willing to say where he was that night or what he did, so the most suspicious person is Chu Xiaoyang. Qin Ning nodded and said, that's right, he is the most suspicious. How did he explain visiting the Northern Qi emissary? Emo Chuan said, he said he did not know what the blueprint was. He only heard that Northern Qi had sent an emissary, and he was bored in his manner. So he went to talk to the Northern Qi emissary about Northern Qi's customs and people to relieve his boredom. This story is full of holes and it is not convincing at all. But he insisted that the blueprint theft had nothing to do with him. I sent people to search Li Zhixing's and Chu Xiaoyang's manors, but we couldn't find any clues about the blueprint. It was as if the blueprint had disappeared into thin air and the person who stole it couldn't determine which of the two did it. Perhaps it was someone else. After he finished speaking, his relaxed eyebrows furrowed again. Ning, you seem to have the ability to see through people's hearts. Whether someone is lying or not, you can tell with a glance. Only you can help me with this matter. Are you willing to help me? He thought back to the first time he met her. His eyes could be considered sharp, but he was still blinded by that swindler who sold himself to bury his father. But she easily saw through the swindler's scam. It was because of this that she attracted his attention. The closer he got to her, the more he realized that she had this strange ability. Her eyes seemed to have the ability to see through many of the subtle thoughts that he had hidden in his heart. It was as if her eyes had the ability to see through everything. So when this happened, the first person he thought of was her. If only she was here. Qin Ning immediately understood Emo Chuan's meaning and nodded without any hesitation. Of course I'm willing. Chapter 1156. Qin Ning's eyes lit up. You're right. Since it's like this, the blueprint can only be in one place. Where? Emo Chuan's eyes also lit up. The guest house, she said with certainty. Emo Chuan immediately shook his head. Impossible. I've already sent people to carefully search the guest house. Every room has been dug 3 feet deep. Everyone in the guest house has been searched, but they haven't found the blueprint. You really searched every place? Qin Ning said thoughtfully. That's right. I personally led people to search. Emo Chuan nodded with certainty. Did you search the room where the Northern Qi emissary lived? The first place I searched was that room. Emo Chuan said. Every corner? Every place? Of course. Qin Ning curled her lips. No, there's one place you definitely didn't search. Emo Chuan said without even thinking. I have personally searched every place and I have searched very carefully. The box with the blueprint, did you search it? That box is clear, it's empty. The blueprint was originally placed in the box, but it's gone. Emo Chuan said. He looked at Qin Ning, looking at him with a smile that wasn't a smile, and suddenly realized something. You're saying that there's a hidden layer in the box? I'm not sure if there's a hidden layer in the box. After all, I haven't seen the box before. But other than there, I can't think of any other place the thief would put the blueprint if you really searched everywhere. Qin Ning said in a calm voice. Emo Chuan couldn't help sucking in a breath of cold air. So you're saying that it really was the Northern Qi envoy who stole it? Only the Northern Qi envoy would know that there's a hidden layer in the box, so it must be him. No. This is only one of the possibilities. Emo Chuan, we need to find that box now and see if the blueprint is still in the box. Some things are just my speculations, so we have to see it with our own eyes. Qin Ning said. Emo Chuan nodded and said, all right, let's go to the Northern Qi guest house now. Because the theft of the blueprint was very serious, the guest house was heavily guarded by Emo Chuan's imperial guards. Not even a fly could fly in. Not many people knew that the Northern Qi envoy had brought the blueprint to West Chu. Emo Chuan hid the fact that the blueprint was stolen even more. Others only knew that the Northern Qi envoy had lost an important item, but no one knew that it was the quintuple crossbow blueprint. The Northern Qi envoy was basically under house arrest in the guest house and could not leave. When he heard that the West Chu Emperor and Empress had arrived, he didn't even come out. Emo Chuan and Qin Ning appeared at the door. The Northern Qi envoy looked up and coldly said, did you catch the thief? No. Emo Chuan shook his head. He was not angered by the Northern Qi envoy's rude words. In reality, for something like this to happen, if the Northern Qi emissary had not stolen what he had been guarding, his reaction would have been perfectly normal. If he and the Northern Qi envoy were in a different place, he would probably be as angry as the envoy. Emo, the envoy that Qin the Chu the Ning, he said. His dissatisfaction was already overflowing with emotion, and he did not conceal it at all. Emo Chuan didn't get angry. He held Qin Ning's hand and walked into the room. Emo Chuan was not angry. He held Qin Ning's hand and walked into the room. Chapter 1157. The expressions of the royal guards behind Emo Chuan instantly changed. How dare you mock the emperor? Do you know your crime? The leader of the imperial guards couldn't hold back and shouted at the Northern Qi envoy. The Northern Qi envoy proudly raised his chin and sat motionless in his chair. He snorted, what crime did I commit? Am I not speaking the truth? Qin Ning stepped forward and spoke in a voice even colder than the Northern Qi envoy's. Whether it is the truth or not, we will use the truth to speak. We have come this time to find out the truth. Her voice was as cold as ice, like pearls hitting a jade plate, clear and pleasant to the ear. The Northern Qi envoy couldn't help but raise his head and look at her a few times, his eyes slightly narrowing. Woman? Who are you? This is a matter of national importance. What place do you, a woman, have? His tone became even more disdainful as he said to Emo Chuan, your country really can't find anyone to actually let a woman come out and tell you what to do. Emo Chuan's expression froze, and a cold light suddenly flashed in his eyes. The Northern Qi envoy felt a chill on his back, and he couldn't help but swallow the rest of his words. He was originally arrogant, but after being glared at by Emo Chuan, he unconsciously lowered his arrogance. Please speak with a bit of respect. This is my Empress, Emo Chuan said coldly. So it's the Empress. This envoy greets the Empress. The Northern Qi envoy's expression changed slightly. He finally stood up from his chair and reluctantly bowed to Qin Ning. The Empress has also come. Could it be that you have found the stolen blueprint? Or have you found out the identity of the thief? The sarcasm on his face became even stronger. Qin Ning's gaze was fixed on the envoy, observing his every expression. Hearing this, she faintly smiled. I have come this time to find the blueprint. I heard that it was placed in a box and disappeared. May I ask the envoy, where is that box now? The Northern Qi envoy laughed coldly. Of course the box is still there, but the blueprint is gone. The Empress, you are so powerful. Could it be that you want to make the blueprint come out of the box? Qin Ning calmly said, please take out the box and let me have a look. The Northern Qi envoy coldly looked at her and impatiently pointed at the table next to him. The box is over there. If the Empress wants to see it, please go ahead. Qin Ning looked in the direction of his finger. She saw an 8-treasure gold box with pearls open, revealing the silk inside. The box was completely empty. Is it this box? She walked over, picked up the box, weighed it in her hand and put her hand in to feel it. The Northern Chi emissary laughed coldly. If you can conjure the blueprint out of the box, I will eat the 8-treasure golden box on the spot. Before he could finish speaking, his eyes suddenly widened, almost popping out of their sockets. He saw Chen Ning's hand come out of the box. Her slender fingers were holding a few pages of blueprints as she gently waved them in front of him. The Northern Chi envoy's jaw almost dropped. His face was full of disbelief as he stared dazedly at the map in Chen Ning's hand. Honorable envoy, may I ask if these are the blueprints that were stolen? Chen Ning looked over the paper. Seeing the densely packed figures on it, she already had an idea of what to do. Chapter 1158. Let me see. The Northern Chi envoy could not contain his excitement. He rushed forward and grabbed the blueprints from Chen Ning's hands, placing them in front of his eyes to examine them one by one. Correct. These are the stolen blueprints. Not a single one is missing. His fingers trembled slightly. His face was full of disbelief. His mind was a mess. This was impossible. It was clearly an empty golden box. Where did the blueprints come from? Empress, these blueprints, where did you find them? The Northern Chi envoy felt that this matter was extremely strange and couldn't help but ask. Chen Ning lightly said, Did you not see it just now? I took these blueprints out of this box. That's impossible, this box is clearly empty. You must have used some sort of trick. The Northern Chi envoy cried out involuntarily. Envoy, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. When I came here, my hands were empty. This box has always been in your room. What do you mean by that? Chen Ning's face darkened. She looked at him coldly. The envoy was stared at by her clear as ice and immediately swallowed the questions he wanted to ask. But where did these blueprints come from? He couldn't help but ask again. Envoy, perhaps you only saw the surface of the box and did not notice that there was a layer of mechanism in the box? Chen Ning lifted the brocade in her hands, revealing the golden bottom. She gently pulled it out and took out a thin golden plate. These blueprints were placed in the interlayer of this box. However, this interlayer is very thin and covered with brocade, so at first glance, the blueprints in the box have disappeared. In reality, the blueprints are still in the box. As she spoke, she stared intently at the Northern Chi envoy. Now, I would like to ask envoy, what is the matter with the interlayer of this box? What is the matter with the blueprints in this box? The blueprints are clearly still in the box. Why does the envoy insist that the blueprints have been stolen? Sir, you have poured this stolen bucket of dirty water on my West Chu. I would like to ask what your intentions are? Her string of questions was powerful and resonant. The Northern Chi envoy was dumbstruck and couldn't speak for a while. Because every one of her questions was accusing him of embezzlement. The Northern Chi envoy felt that he could not defend himself. He really did not know how to answer her questions. This box had always been in his room. Other than him, who else knew of the mechanism of this golden box? Who else could have done anything to this golden box? All the evidence pointed to one thing, and that was that he was the one who did it. He was the thief crying thief. He was the one who stole. The Northern Chi envoy only saw that everyone around him was looking at him with disdain, anger, and disdain. His entire body broke out in a cold sweat. It wasn't me. It really wasn't me. Your Majesty, please punish him and arrest him. The Imperial Guards were aggressive, and they all glared at the Northern Chi envoys. Mo Chuan slowly nodded. Anger rose in his chest as he stared coldly at the Northern Chi envoy. The other party was actually so cunning, using the name of selling blueprints to contact him, but actually doing such a despicable and dirty thing. If he dared to do it, he would have to take responsibility for it. Even if he beheaded him in public, the Northern Chi Emperor would not be able to say a word. Come, arrest him. Mo Chuan said coldly. Hearing this, the strength in the Northern Chi envoy's body disappeared. He fell to the ground and collapsed into a ball. Chapter 1160. Just as the Imperial Guards surrounded the Northern Chi envoys, Chen Ning suddenly raised her hand and raised her voice to say, Sir Envoy, I didn't say you stole the blueprint. I believe you. You really didn't know about the hidden compartment in the box. What? Everyone's eyes immediately turned to look at Chen Ning. The Imperial Guards' faces were filled with confusion and bewilderment. Even Mo Chuan's eyes became unfathomable. The Northern Chi envoy's eyes lit up. He had already lost all hope, but Chen Ning's words were like a drowning man suddenly finding a rope to save his life. He didn't hesitate to grab onto it. Really? Empress, do you believe my words? His eyes were filled with tears as he looked at Chen Ning with gratitude in his eyes. At this moment he really wanted to kneel down and kowtow to her. Mo Chuan couldn't help but turn to look at Chen Ning. He asked in a puzzled voice, Ning, what do you mean? Do you really believe him? He didn't hide the blueprint on purpose? Now that the facts were right in front of them and all the evidence pointed to the Northern Qi envoy, Chen Ning spoke up for him. Even though Mo Chuan thought he understood Chen Ning, he couldn't guess what she was thinking. I believe him, Chen Ning said in a confident tone. From the moment she entered the door, she had been observing the Northern Qi envoy's expression. She didn't miss a single detail. From his arrogance at the beginning, to his surprise when he found the blueprint, to his panic when he was accused, it was all very real. There was no trace of it being fake. If he wanted to lie to her, it would be impossible for him to hide it from her sharp eyes. Mo Chuan frowned and looked deeply at Chen Ning. He had thought that Chen Ning finding the hidden compartment in the box would prove that this matter had nothing to do with West Chu and that it was all the Northern Qi envoy's doing. But now she was actually speaking up for the Northern Qi envoy. Could it be that she had guessed who really wanted to steal the blueprint? Ning, I want to know why this blueprint appeared in the hidden compartment in the box. Who is the real thief? Is that black-clothed masked man real or fake? He asked in a deep voice. In reality, he found that she already had a plan for finding the blueprint in the box. This girl was keeping him in suspense again. Chen Ning combed her hair and gave him an apologetic smile. You have too many questions, I'll answer them one at a time. Mo Chuan, I'm not keeping you in suspense. I'm just not sure if I can find the blueprint in the envoy's room. I'm just making a simple guess. If someone really broke into the post house that night and drugged everyone, and if there really was a black-clothed and masked thief, then when they caught him they found the sleeping incense on his body and the blueprint was indeed stolen. However, they couldn't find the blueprint on the thief's body, and there was nothing in the honorable envoy's room either. In that case, could the blueprint have disappeared without a trace? Mo Chen, Qi envoy, and Chuan, this is obviously impossible because he was discovered as soon as he left the room. He didn't have the chance to move the stolen goods. If that's the case, where would the blueprint be? Her eyes were sparkling and her voice was crisp and sweet. Everyone was attracted by her words and thought, yes, where could this blueprint be? Chen Ning shook her head and said, it's not that obvious, but it's even more confusing. However, this matter can prove that the theft of the blueprint is indeed unrelated to this esteemed envoy. Hearing this, the Northern Qi envoy looked at Chen Ning with gratitude, and this time he was speechless. At a time when everyone was wrongly accusing him, there was someone who stood out to clear his name and prove his innocence. He was willing to lay down his life for that person and die 100 times without regrets. Mo Chuan slightly knit his brows. He looked at her and said, why are you so sure? Chapter 1162. There is a saying that a negative is a positive. If I assume that there really is a thief, and if he really came to steal the blueprint, and if I don't find the blueprint in the hidden compartment, then it means that the honorable envoy is a thief crying thief stealing what he is guarding. But if all the assumptions are established, then there is only one result, and that is that the honorable envoy is not lying. He really doesn't know that the blueprint is hidden in the compartment of the box. If I explain it like this, can you understand? Chen Ning's clear and bright eyes stared at Mo Chuan. They were clear and bright and very intelligent. This reasoning already touched upon the deeper principles of logic. It was a bit difficult for Mo Chuan and the others who had never come into contact with logic to accept it. Of course, this was only one of the reasons why she came to this conclusion. The other reason was that, through micro-observation, she found that the Northern Qi envoy was not lying. Everyone was confused hearing this and their brains couldn't wrap around it. What was a negative is a positive, what was a hypothesis established? Was the Empress talking about the Book of Heaven? Although they couldn't understand, they all believed Chen Ning's words without a doubt. They admired her intelligence to the point of prostrating themselves, so no one questioned her. Mo Chuan looked at Chen Ning, and his originally stern face revealed a faint smile. It was like the ice had melted, making people feel like they were bathing in the spring wind. He reached out his hand and lovingly rubbed her hair. In a soft voice he said, I don't understand, but I believe you. The Imperial Guard saw the faint smile on Mo Chuan's face, and they were so shocked that they couldn't believe their eyes. The serious emperor in their eyes, who never smiled, could actually have such a gentle moment? He could actually smile. Especially when the emperor could use such a gentle tone to speak. They had never seen or heard of it before. Chen Ning's white jade-like cheeks turned slightly red. She didn't think that Mo Chuan would reveal such a tender and sweet expression to her in front of everyone. His gentle eyes were like water, making her drown in them. She awkwardly cleared her throat and looked away, looking at the Northern Qi envoy. Honorable envoy, since the blueprint has been found, can we continue with the deal between our two countries? This. The Northern Qi envoy's expression was filled with hesitation. His heart had just fallen back into his stomach, but he tightly gripped the blueprint in his hand. His heart was already beating a retreat. This theft had scared him to the point that 3 out of 7 souls had disappeared. It was all because of the blueprint. Now it was proven that the person who stole the blueprint was someone else, and this person was without a doubt a Westchu citizen. Perhaps he was sent by the young emperor in front of him, so he didn't want to sell the blueprint to a thief. Chen Ning looked at his expression and already guessed his thoughts. Chapter 1163. Chen Ning's words were neither servile nor overbearing. There was a hint of threat and temptation, but in the ears of the Northern Qi envoy, not only did it not sound harsh, it actually felt indescribably comfortable. His heart was filled with mixed feelings. He couldn't describe what he felt towards Chen Ning. There was admiration, gratitude, and surprise. This empress might be young, but her words were convincing. Her words were all pointed at his weak points, making him unable to even say a no. The empress has cleared this envoy's name. This envoy is very grateful. No matter what the empress says, this envoy will not disobey. Emperor, we can proceed with this transaction now. The Northern Qi envoy thought for a bit, then respectfully presented the blueprint to Emo Chuan with both hands. Emo Chuan was slightly surprised. He didn't think that the Northern Qi envoy would agree so readily. Sir, I do not have any silver on me. We can continue the transaction tomorrow. He left the palace in a hurry, and as the emperor, he could not have any silver on him. And this was a large sum that needed to be paid for by the national treasury. It's fine. This blueprint can be given to the emperor first. As for the silver, the emperor can send someone to deliver it. I believe in the emperor and the empress. The Northern Qi envoy spoke very generously, handing over the blueprint in his hand a few more inches. He was beginning to feel that this blueprint had become a hot potato. If he continued to keep it by his side, there was no telling what would happen next time. If the blueprint was lost and he did not receive the silver for the transaction, how would he have the face to return to Northern Qi and report to the emperor? So, it was better to give this blueprint away as soon as possible. Based on the empress' ability to clear his name, she would not take the blueprint and not pay. Emo Chuan smiled and took the blueprint. He said, then I will accept it. As for the silver, I will have the Minister of Revenue send it to the embassy. Please accept it when the time comes. The Northern Qi envoy seemed to let out a long sigh of relief. He revealed a smile and bowed to Emo Chuan and Chen Ning again. I thank the emperor and the empress. The arrogant and despotic air on his face was swept away, and he became very humble and courteous. If the imperial guards had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it. The Northern Qi envoy was grateful to Chen Ning from the bottom of his heart. With all the evidence pointing at him and all the odds against him, she did not mind his rudeness toward her. On the contrary, she had helped him clear his name. This kindness was worth his life to repay. Otherwise, if he did not complete the emperor's mission on this trip to West Chu and was accused of embezzlement, even if Emo Chuan did not punish him, once he returned, the emperor of Northern Qi would definitely chop off his head. Emo Chuan took the blueprint and put it in his chest. He held Chen Ning's hand and said, "Let us go." He swept his gaze across the surroundings and ordered, "Imperial guards, continue to stand guard around the post house. Do not leave without permission. Protect everyone in the post house. If anything happens, I will not let you off lightly. Thank you, Your Majesty, for thinking so deeply for me." The Northern Qi envoy was even more grateful. He was originally worried that he had given the blueprints to Emo Chuan. If the mastermind found out about it and sent people to infiltrate the guest station again, perhaps this time it wouldn't be just the blueprints, but his head. Chapter 1164. After Emo Chuan and Chen Ning left the guest house, they remained silent. On the way back to the palace, they did not say a word. Chen Ning did not say anything either. The two of them sat in the carriage, each thinking about their own matters. Emo Chuan took out the crossbow blueprints from his chest and carefully looked at them one by one. His face did not reveal much joy from obtaining the blueprints. Instead, his eyebrows furrowed even tighter. He had originally thought that if he found the blueprints in the box, then this matter could be proven to be the work of the Northern Qi emissary, a thief crying thief. But Chen Ning spoke with certainty, saying that this matter had nothing to do with the Northern Qi emissary and that he was wrongly accused. Like this, the person who sent people to steal the blueprints from the guest house became even more confused. And the two most suspicious people were the Minister of War, Li Zhixing, and King Ding Yuan, Chu Xiaoyang. No matter which one it was, he did not want to be the mastermind behind this incident. This quintuple crossbow, after it's made, can it shoot 5 arrows at once? Chen Ning's eyes fell onto the blueprints in Emo Chuan's hands. She casually looked at them and asked thoughtfully. Not bad, Ning, you can actually understand weapon blueprints? Emo Chuan was a little surprised. This kind of complicated blueprints, if one did not learn the art of forging, normal people would not be able to understand it. Even he had to find Li Zhixing for a few books on forging and cram for a few days before he could understand it. Chen Ning gave a faint smile. She had indeed dabbled in these cold weapon blueprints before. Although she did not understand them, there were diagrams and written records of them in her memory palace. I know a thing or two, but this quintuple crossbow doesn't look that special. Is it that powerful to shoot 5 arrows at once? She thought back to the books she remembered about crossbows. The most famous one was the Zhuge crossbow. It was said that it was made by Zhuge Liang of the Three Kingdoms. It could shoot 10 arrows at once and had a very strong firepower. The weakness was that it was too big and too heavy, so a single person could not use it. Later on, there was a great inventor in the Wei Kingdom, Ma Jun, who improved the Zhuge crossbow. The improved crossbow was smaller and lighter, so it could be used by a single person. The most powerful part was that it could shoot 50 arrows at once, which had a very strong killing power. Unfortunately, the method to make it had been lost. Hearing Chen Ning's words, Emo Chuan's brows relaxed. He rubbed her hair and said with a smile, "Silly girl, this quintuple crossbow blueprint is priceless. East Qin and Southern Mountain are both eyeing it. A crossbow that can shoot 5 arrows at once, don't you think it's powerful?" Chen Ning blinked and suddenly said, "I know of a crossbow that can shoot 10 arrows at once." Chen Ning blinked and suddenly said, "I know of a crossbow that can. Is that powerful?" He then nodded and said, I believe that there is someone in this world that has made a 10-chain crossbow. It should be Northern Qi, otherwise they would not sell the 5-chain crossbow blueprint. They have already made 10-chain crossbows, so naturally they would not care about the quintuple crossbow. But to our West Chu, this is a good weapon that we can only wish for. Chen Ning couldn't help rolling her eyes at him. She cleared her throat and said, "Emo Chuan, I'm saying that I can draw a 10-chain crossbow blueprint." "What did you say?" Chapter 1165. Ning, how could you know this? If you want to make me happy, you can use another method, Emo Chuan was stunned for a moment before revealing a smile. He pulled her into his embrace, lifted her chin, and kissed her on the lips. Chen Ning's face turned slightly red. She broke free from his embrace and said with a serious expression, "Emo Chuan, I'm not joking with you. I'm serious, let me see this blueprint." She took the 5 repeating crossbow blueprint from his hands and carefully looked over it, comparing it with the blueprint of the Zhuge repeating crossbow in her mind. She quickly found that this 5 repeating crossbow was small and light, making it very easy for a single person to use. Although the Zhuge repeating crossbow could shoot 10 arrows at once, its weakness was obvious. It was too heavy and needed 2 or even 3 people to use it. She couldn't help thinking that perhaps there was a way to combine the advantages of these 2 crossbows. She unknowingly became lost in thought. We're about to enter the palace. Ning, who are you going to interrogate first? Li Zhixing or Chu Xiaoyang? Emo Chuan looked at the palace gates coming closer and closer, and his heart became heavy. One was his most valued minister, and the other was his blood-related nephew. But one of these 2 people had betrayed him. No matter who it was, he did not want to face them. But this mystery would soon be revealed. Chen Ning had just thought of a clue, but she didn't have time to think about it. Hearing this, she looked up and thought about it for a bit. Chu Xiaoyang. She quietly said this name without any fluctuations in her voice, just like she was talking about a stranger. Emo Chuan was a bit surprised, but he didn't say anything and just looked at her with a deep gaze. "Relax, with me by your side, he definitely won't touch a single finger of yours," he firmly said. "No, Emo Chuan, when I see him in a bit, I hope you won't be there." "No." Emo Chuan immediately shook his head. "If I'm not there, what if he hurts you? With his personality, he won't care." "Emo Chuan, listen to me." Chen Ning placed her index finger on his lips. "I'll act according to the situation. I won't let him hurt me. If you're there, his emotions will become unstable after seeing you and it will affect my judgment, so I have to see him alone. Believe me, I will protect myself. Did you forget the peacock tail you gave me? The little needles on it aren't something to be trifled with. If he dares to be rude to me, I'll let him have a taste of these needles." Emo Chuan still shook his head. "No, Ning, I can promise you anything, but I can't do this." Chu Xiaoyang's martial arts are very high, so if he suddenly attacks, you won't be able to react at all. Even if you have the peacock tail, it won't be foolproof, so I'm not assured. Qin Ning knew that he was worried about her and her heart filled with warmth. What kind of person Chu Xiaoyang was, he knew it better than her. When he went crazy, he was like a tiger coming down the mountain. If he hurt her, it would be too late for regrets. He suddenly felt a shiver and felt even more like he had made the wrong decision. He suddenly felt a chill run and he realized. Chu Xiaoyang's heart for her was very strong and he was a headstrong person. His martial arts were very strong and she didn't know any martial arts at all. Wasn't this sending her to the tiger's den? This matter has nothing to do with you, so I can't let you take the risk for me. Even if there is a little bit of danger, I won't let you go in. No, Mo Chuan, I want to go. Chapter 1167. The matters of the country are all people's responsibilities. Your matters are my matters. If I can't help you, how could I be worthy of being your wife? Qin Ning gave him a gentle smile and said in a soft voice, "Believe me, I will find the answer to this riddle." She slowly let go of his hand and walked into the room. Jiya. At this time, the window of the room was suddenly pushed open and Chu Xiaoyang's figure appeared in front of the two of them. "Since you're here, why are you dawdling outside? Emperor, you've come in the middle of the night, could it be because of the stolen blueprint? Alright, I might as well tell the Emperor that it was I, Chu Xiaoyang, who sent people to steal it. As for the blueprint, it has already been burned by me, completely burned away." Chu Xiaoyang looked at Mo Chuan outside the window with a cold expression. With just a single glance, his expression suddenly changed. He looked at Qin Ning in the yard in a daze and his eyes were filled with disbelief. "Ning-er? I think I'm seeing Ning-er? Am I seeing things? Ning-er, is it really you? You came to see me?" He rubbed his eyes and muttered to himself. Just now in the room he was silently standing there. There was no one else in his mind, there was only her. But he never thought that he would really see her. Wasn't this a dream? He couldn't help raising his brows as he stared at her. Qin Ning nodded at him. "It's me." She reached out and pushed the door open. She walked in without any hesitation and then turned to close the door. Chu Xiaoyang suddenly felt his heart beating wildly. His mouth was dry and his eyes lit up. He stared at her slender back as his hands tightly clenched into fists by his side. "She's here. She really came. Emperor, your Empress is here to see this minister, so why are you standing outside the window? Why don't you come in and sit?" He suddenly turned his head and looked at Mo Chuan from the corner of his eyes. His brows slightly jumped up as he looked at Mo Chuan with a provocative look. "Are you not afraid of a man and woman alone in a room and bad rumors will spread?" Mo Chuan coldly looked at him, not saying a word. His eyes were as sharp as ice and Chu Xiaoyang felt a chill run down his back. He was pressured by his aura and the cold smile on his face froze. If the Emperor doesn't come in, then this minister will have a few words with the Empress. Chu Xiaoyang waved his sleeve and a strong wind flew out. The two long windows were closed with a pa sound, blocking Mo Chuan's line of sight. Mo Chuan gritted his teeth and looked at the two figures reflected on the paper window. His internal energy was deep and no matter what happened in the room, it would not escape his ears. He was always on guard and if Chu Xiaoyang dared to make a move, he would charge in without any hesitation. "This minister greets the Empress." Chu Xiaoyang's voice rang out. He purposely dragged out his words. Chapter 1168. Chu Xiaoyang gave a proud and wild laugh. He laughed until tears began to flow out. All the anger and resentment in his chest burst forth in an instant. "Chu Xiaoyang, if you dare say another word, this one won't be polite to you." Mo Chuan's eyes popped out of their sockets when he heard this. He wished he could immediately grab Chu Xiaoyang's throat and stop his wild laughter. "Ha ha, you won't be polite to me? When have you ever been polite to me? Emperor, I am your blood-related nephew, how have you treated me all these years? You stole my throne and you stole my woman. What else do you want to take from me? Just come and take it. What throne, what noble title, you can take it all. I, Chu Xiaoyang, don't care about it at all. Even if you want to take my life, I won't even bat an eyelid." Chu Xiaoyang laughed like a mad tiger. He laughed while looking at Qin Ning without blinking. Tears unknowingly came to his eyes. No more, he had nothing left. Even the girl he had loved for 8 years had become someone else's bride. He had thought that his heart was dead, but he never thought that when he saw her, his dead heart would regain its vitality. It wildly beat in his chest, almost jumping out of his chest. She still had the familiar face from his memories. Her skin was white and her face was picturesque. Her face was a bit haggard, but her eyes were still as bright as before. Even after hearing his insulting words, her face was still calm. She just used her clear-as-water eyes to silently stare at him. Chu Xiaoyang's heart filled with shame and he couldn't help lowering his head under her gaze. Those dirty insults were swallowed back into his stomach. He knew that he was no longer in her heart and that she had become someone else's wife. He should hate her to the bone, but when he saw her eyes, Chu Xiaoyang found that he couldn't hate her at all. He was still deeply, deeply in love with her. This was truly sad. Chu Xiaoyang took a deep breath and looked up. Looking into Chen Ning's eyes, his beautiful lips slightly curled up, revealing a smile that could captivate the world. At this moment, it was like he was that high-spirited, arrogant King Ding Yuan again. "I ought to congratulate you, don't I, Empress?" he said with a faint smile. Chen Ning looked at him for a while and noticed that his brows were raised. This was a friendly signal, he was no longer hostile towards her. She just stared at him, not saying a word. "I haven't seen you in a long time. Your poison. Is it completely cured?" Chu Xiaoyang spoke again. His voice was gentle and not aggressive at all. It was just like a concerned greeting from a friend. Chen Ning slowly nodded. "Thank you for the 1,000-year-old snow ginseng." Hearing the words 1,000-year-old snow ginseng, Chu Xiaoyang's eyes flashed with a complicated look and his eyes became sharp again. He did not forget the scene in that dungeon. Chapter 1169. He gave a cold laugh. "I traded a life for a life, you don't need to thank me. You saved me 8 years ago and I saved you 8 years later, so we're even. I, Chu Xiaoyang, am not a begging person, you don't need to look at me like that. Do you think I'll still bother you? Do you think I'll still be infatuated with you? Let me tell you, this king already has a beloved concubine and this king's son will be born soon. This king doesn't know how happy he is right now." Chu Xiaoyang said this in an arrogant tone. It was like he had turned back to the first time she saw him. Chen Ning gave a sigh in her heart. She did not ignore the change in his expression. She knew that he was saying these words for her to hear. It was like an injured animal hiding its injured side, baring its fangs and roaring. This was because he was afraid of being injured again. Her heart felt a bit sour and an indescribable feeling filled her heart. He had not forgotten her at all. Even now he still liked her like before. "It was him who told you to ask this king about the blueprint, right?" Chu Xiaoyang coldly looked at her and his chest filled with anger once again. So she was the same as the emperor, treating him as a thief. This king will tell you the truth. That bullshit blueprint was stolen by this king. Does he think that he can hide his secret deal with the northern Qi country from this king's eyes and ears? This king will let him see it and not have it. He wants the blueprint? No. This king has already burned it down and burned it clean, not leaving a single thing behind. He paused and looked out the window with a cold gaze. He raised his voice and said, "If you want to punish this king for his crimes, just give the order. This king is not afraid. You can strip this king of his marquis title, you can throw this king into prison, you can even behead this king in public. Come. Why do you need to hide outside and not show your face, letting a woman question this king? Chuo Chuan, if you were a man, give the order and take this king's head." Mo Chuan tightly pursed his lips. His eyes were filled with anger, but he did not say a word. If the blueprint really was stolen by Chu Xiaoyang, then his actions were treasonous. He could give the order to punish him, strip him of his title, and even behead him. But he could not do it. "I found the blueprint," Chen Ning suddenly said. Chu Xiaoyang was like a mad lion, baring his teeth and roaring. He was stunned when he heard this. He turned to look at her and knit his brows. "Found it?" Then a look of shock flashed across his face and his lips curled into a cold sneer. "Since you've found the blueprint, what are you doing here? Why are you keeping this king under house arrest? Why aren't you letting this king out?" His aura was overbearing. Chen Ning stared at him without blinking. Chen Ning looked up and quietly looked at him. "I don't have anything else to ask." "Ning. No matter what you ask, I will tell you everything in detail." "Ning, don't go. Say a few more words to me. You don't know how long I've been thinking about you before I finally see you again." Chen was Ning. There was only one candle flickering in the room, and the flickering light of the candle shone on her face. She was just as charming and moving as he remembered. This was the girl that he deeply loved in his heart. Chapter 1171. Chen Ning's expression slightly changed. She felt like the heart in her chest began to uncontrollably beat again. "All right, I'll ask you again. You said that you were the one who ordered people to steal that blueprint. Do you know what's on that blueprint? She looked at him without blinking. Chu Xiaoyang replied without even thinking, Of course I know. Then tell me what is it? Chu Xiaoyang hesitated for a bit before replying, Weapons, of course it's weapons. Oh, what kind of weapons are they? Spears? Swords? Halberds? Bows? Or crossbows? Or sais? Qin Ning counted the names of the weapons as she looked at Chu Xiaoyang. Chu Xiaoyang asked back, Is this question important? No, it's not important at all. Qin Ning took a deep breath and opened the door. I've already asked what I needed to ask and I already know the answer to this matter. King Ding Yuan, you can be assured that the Emperor will not randomly accuse you of anything just because you were disrespectful to him. If it's right, then it's wrong. Whoever made a mistake will be the one to bear it. She said each word in a loud and clear voice. After saying this, she walked around Chu Xiaoyang and opened the door, walking out without looking back. Chu Xiaoyang's fingers slightly moved. When she passed by him, he almost couldn't control himself from wanting to grab her and tightly hug her. But he just stood there without moving. The wind came in from outside the door, lifting his robe and messing up his hair. His eyes stared at her back as he watched her walk to that man's side. That man tightly held her hand and pulled her out of his sight without looking back. Chu Xiaoyang seemed like he had turned into a statue. There was no expression on his face at all, but his eyes were filled with flames of pain. After walking a very far away, Mo Chuan finally stopped. He pulled Qin Ning's hand and faced her. Ning, I shouldn't have let you see him and be humiliated by him. This matter has nothing to do with you, but for me. No, Mo Chuan. Qin Ning gently cut him off. There was no anger or disgust on her face. Your matter is my matter, unless you don't treat me as one of your own. Silly girl, in this world the person I trust the most is you. Mo Chuan reached out his arms and gave her a tight hug. Since Chu Xiaoyang admitted that he did it, I won't show mercy. Wait for me to report this to Mother and then I'll punish him. Mo Chuan, do you believe his words? Do you really think that he is the mastermind behind all of this? Qin Ning looked up from his chest and looked at him with a surprised expression. Mo Chuan looked down, hiding the complex emotions in his eyes. He didn't want Chu Xiaoyang to be the mastermind more than anyone else, but he had personally admitted it. Other than him and Li Zhixing, no one else would know that it was a weapon. Chu Xiaoyang was right, so even if he wanted to absolve Chu Xiaoyang, he couldn't find a reason to do so. Mo Chuan, it's not him. Chu Xiaoyang's words today were all out of anger. He isn't the real mastermind. Qin Ning left his embrace and looked right at him, speaking word for word. Mo Chuan's deep black eyes fell onto her face and he softly said, Ning, you don't want it to be him, right? Chapter 1172. Mo Chuan pulled her hand. He has already personally admitted it, so it can't be wrong. Ning, just leave this matter to me. You just came back and haven't had a good rest, running around for this matter. You must be very tired, right? I'll carry you back to sleep. He carried her without any explanation. Using his qinggong, he headed in the direction of the Guan Osprey Palace. The night wind blew against her face. Qin Ning could only swallow the words she wanted to say. She suddenly had a feeling that Mo Chuan did not want to hear her defend Chu Xiaoyang. Why was this? Could it be that he was jealous of Chu Xiaoyang? When they arrived at the Guan Osprey Palace, Missouri Chuan carried her to the bedroom with large steps and placed her on the large and soft bed. When Qin Ning was about to stand up, Mo Chuan raised his hand and placed it on her shoulder. Ning, you're too tired. What you need the most right now is rest, so it won't be too late to say anything tomorrow. Then what about you? Where are you going? She looked at him. Mo Chuan said with a faint smile, I'm not going anywhere, I'll stay here with you. He opened the blanket and covered her body. He took off his shoes and climbed onto the bed, letting her lie in his embrace. Then he said, Can you peacefully sleep now? Qin Ning bit her lips. She found that Mo Chuan's attitude was very strange and she couldn't see through him at all. It was clearly him who came to find her to find out the truth, but now that the truth was about to be revealed, he deliberately avoided it. She tossed and turned in his embrace, unable to fall asleep. She suddenly sat up and looked at him. Mo Chuan, I must tell you that Chu Xiaoyang really isn't the mastermind behind this. Ning, go to sleep. Mo Chuan closed his eyes and reached out to pull her, causing her to fall onto him. He tightly wrapped his arms around her and his other hand slowly stroked her hair. In a deep voice he said, I don't want to hear you mention another man's name when it's only the two of us on this bed. Mo Chuan. Qin Ning glared at him. If you don't go to sleep, I'll kiss you. Mo Chuan opened his eyes and looked at her with sparkling eyes. His eyes slowly moved down and fell onto her full red lips. Her face couldn't help turning red. She knew that he would do as he said. Thinking of his storm-like kisses, her face became even redder. She could only close her eyes and lie in his embrace without moving. Something warm and soft fell on her forehead, like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water, kissing her lightly. Ning, go to sleep. Mo Chuan's voice filled with love once again sounded in her ears. Chen Ning felt sleepy and unknowingly fell into a deep sleep. When she woke up again, she found that the sky was already bright and the Mo Chuan beside her had already disappeared. She was in such a deep sleep that she didn't even know when he left. Chen Ning had a good sleep this time, feeling full of energy. Looking around and seeing familiar places, she revealed a faint smile. After traveling for so long, she finally returned home. She actually felt like a tired bird returning to its nest. Home. BB. Home. Did she already consider Guan Osprey Palace to be her home? It seemed that this was the first place she felt a sense of belonging since she transmigrated. He'd been here. Wherever he was, it would feel like home. She stretched herself and got off the bed. She walked to the window and pushed it open, wanting to breathe in some fresh air. She could already smell the fragrance of the flowers blowing in through the cracks in the window. Chapter 1173. Do you know? The emperor sent down an imperial edict early in the morning, sending King Ding Yuan to prison. What? Is this news true? How is that possible? King Ding Yuan is the emperor's blood-related nephew. It's completely true. I heard from the guards in the palace that King Ding Yuan had sent someone to steal an important item from the emperor, angering the emperor. So he reported this to the Empress Dowager and punished King Ding Yuan. King Ding Yuan would steal the emperor's item? What item could be so important? How would we servants know? It must be an important item. In the corner of the window, several maids cleaning the courtyard were chattering, discussing the large matter that had happened in the palace. They never would have thought that their whispers would be heard by Chen Ning, not missing a single word. She stood in front of the window with her hand on the window frame, but she did not open it. It was like her acupuncture point had been poked, completely stunned. The maids discussed in a low voice for a while before dispersing and cleaning the courtyard. Chen Ning stood in a daze in front of the window for a long time until there was a soft knocking sound coming from the door. "Young miss, are you awake?" It was Xiao Ru's voice. It was like she did not hear anything as she stood in front of the window. The voices of the maids echoed in her ears. Chu Xiaoyang had been punished by Mo Chuan and thrown into prison? And it was in the name of stealing? But the mastermind behind the blueprint was not Chu Xiaoyang at all. Chen Ning was 100% sure that this matter had nothing to do with Chu Xiaoyang. She had wanted to tell Mo Chuan her thoughts several times last night, but Mo Chuan had interrupted her and changed the topic. Could it be that Mo Chuan did not want to hear it at all? Or did he already think that Chu Xiaoyang was the mastermind? She knit her brows and thought about it. This answer only Mo Chuan could give her. But Mo Chuan had disappeared early in the morning. Was he purposely avoiding her, not wanting to hear her true answer? "Young miss, you're awake? This servant thought you were sleeping, so I didn't dare disturb you." The door was silently pushed open and Xiao Ru quietly walked in with her toiletries. Seeing Chen Ning standing in front of the window, she let out a sigh of relief and revealed a pure smile on her face. It was like a ray of sunlight, dispelling the haze in Chen Ning's heart. Chen Ning walked over with a smile and rubbed her hair. She thought that if she was as pure as Xiao Ru, perhaps she would be a lot happier. "Xiao Ru, go and find out where the Minister of War Li Zhixing is being held." After washing up, Chen Ning decided to continue investigating the truth of the matter. She had already met 2 of the 3 suspects. She had to meet the last one to confirm her judgment. The news that Xiao Ru had brought back shocked her. When Mo Chuan gave the order to lock Li Zhixing up in the heavenly prison, he had already restored Li Zhixing's freedom and allowed him to return to his palace. It seemed like Mo Chuan had already made his decision. He believed that the person who stole the blueprints was Chu Xiaoyang and no longer suspected Li Zhixing. She looked up at the sky outside. Mo Chuan should have finished his morning court session at this time. He did not return to the Guanyu Palace, so he should be in the royal study. She looked up at the sky outside. Mo Chuan should have finished morning court at this time. He didn't return to the Guan Osprey Palace, so he must be in the royal study dealing with matters. Chapter 1174. Xiao Ru, go prepare 2 sets of eunuch clothes and leave the palace with me. Chen Ning said. Xiao Ru's eyes opened wide in surprise before her face filled with excitement. "All right, young miss, this servant will immediately go. Are you taking this servant out of the palace to play?" She was as excited as a child. Once she heard leaving the palace, she immediately thought of the bustling streets, the countless delicious foods and the fun things to do. Ning smiled as she pinched her round little face. I'm taking you out of the palace to do official business, it's not playing around. Are we going to Dr. Zhang's palace? This is great, this servant can see Xiaoxi again. He ignored me yesterday and I have many things I want to say to him. Xiao Ru excitedly rushed out. Ning revealed a bitter smile. It's Xiaoxi again. This girl's mouth was always thinking about Xiaoxi. Could it be that she really liked Xiaoxi? She and Xiao Ru changed into eunuch clothes and took out the palace exit token. They easily left the palace, not attracting any attention or suspicion. Once they left the palace, she asked the passers-by where Li Jixing lived. Then she brought Xiao Ru to the Li Palace. I'm here on the Emperor's orders to see Sir Li. Arriving at the Li Palace, Ning raised her head and took out a token. She waved it in front of the Li Palace's gatekeeper. When the gatekeeper saw the yellow token and saw that she and Xiao Ru were eunuchs from the palace, how could he dare neglect them? He quickly smiled and asked them to wait a bit as he quickly went in to report to Li Jixing. Li Jixing had just been released back to his palace and was currently resting. When he heard that the palace had sent people over and that there was an imperial token, he was shocked and quickly came out to greet them. When he came to the door, he found that it was two eunuchs wearing normal eunuch clothes and not the faces of the emperor. His heart that was in his throat fell back down, but he still had a smile on his face as he cupped his hands to Ning and Xiao Ru. Are the two eunuchs here on the emperor's orders to see this official? Ning looked up at him. Li Jixing was wearing a purple robe and was around 40 years old. He had a dignified appearance and a long black beard. He looked like a scholar and did not look like someone who practiced martial arts. His eyes slightly narrowed as he looked at Ning and Xiao Ru. His heart was a little hesitant. This slightly taller eunuch looked a little familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before, but he couldn't remember where. Li Jixing naturally knew that this was a royal gift and quickly said, "Two eunuchs, please come in. This official will serve you of tea." Li Jixing naturally recognized that this was a gift from the emperor. He hurriedly said, "Please come in, eunuchs. Let me serve you tea." Chapter 1175. I heard that Sir Li has many beautiful concubines. May I ask how many concubines does Sir Li have? Ning asked. This lowly official has a total of 13 concubines. Li Jixing carefully replied. His heart skipped a beat, thinking that it was finally here. He thought that Ning wanted him to call out his fifth concubine as a witness for what happened that night, so he was prepared to call someone over. He never thought that Ning would take another sip of tea and change the topic. The emperor said that Sir Li has forged weapons before. May I ask what kind of weapon Sir Li is best at? Is it a long knife, a short sword, a spear, an arrow, a crossbow, or some other strange weapon? Li Jixing was stunned again. He thought about it and said, "When this lowly official was young, I learned a bit of the art of forging from a blacksmith master, but I am definitely not proficient in it. I most often forge tools like hoes and sickles. As for weapons, I only know how to make simple short knives and daggers." So you're saying that Sir Li doesn't know how to make bows and arrows or crossbows? Ning asked. When Li Jixing heard the word crossbow, his eyebrows slightly moved and his eyes couldn't help turning to the upper right corner. Then he shook his head and said, "No, but this lowly official has received the favor of the emperor and been given the heavy responsibility of being the minister of war. I have studied the blueprints of all 18 kinds of weapons. Although I don't know how to make them, I can still understand the principles behind them." Although Ning's words were gentle and she didn't question him, Li Jixing's heart couldn't help becoming nervous. He became even more cautious with his answer. Ning nodded and looked around the living room. She saw a painting of a fierce tiger coming down the mountain hanging in the middle of the hall. She stood up and walked in front of the painting to carefully admire it. Li Jixing also stood up and said with a faint smile, "Does grandfather like this painting?" Ning said, "I am a lowly person, so how could I understand paintings? I only saw that this tiger was painted in an awe-inspiring manner, with a bit of the style of a king of beasts. This painting is so lifelike, it must have been painted by an imperial painter." Li Jixing revealed a proud look in his eyes and said with a smile, "Grandfather is too kind. This painting was not painted by a master, it was just this lowly official's random graffiti." Although he said it was a random graffiti, he couldn't hide the proud look on his face. This was because Ning's words had hit the bottom of his heart. Although he was the Minister of War, he was a very good painter and the one he was most proud of was this tiger descending the mountain painting. Ah, so Surly is skilled in both the pen and the sword. Sir Gigi is both. My apologies for not recognizing me. I didn't expect Surly to know how to forge weapons and paint so well. If the Emperor knew that Surly had such talent, he would definitely be very happy. Perhaps he would even appreciate Surly even more. The smile on Li Zhixing's face became even deeper. He took out a red seal from his sleeve and quietly placed it in Qin Ning's hand. I asked Grandfather Ji of Qin Li Zhixi say something good in front of this. Qin Ning put the red seal into her sleeve and said with a smile, "Say a few good words for me?" Jizz. Darren Li must have other matters to attend to, so I will take my leave first. The Emperor is still waiting for me to return to the palace to report. Chapter 1176. The Emperor suddenly sent these two eunuchs to interrogate him, and the questions they asked were completely unrelated. What was the meaning of this? Even though Li Zhixing thought he was smart, he was still confused. He could not understand the meaning behind Qin Ning's words. Could it be that the Emperor was still suspicious of him because of the stolen blueprints? But with the imperial edict this morning, Chu Xiaoyang had already been sentenced to prison. Could it be that something had changed? But he observed Qin Ning's expression. The Emperor did not seem to be suspicious of him. If he was suspicious, he would not have sent these two little eunuchs to interrogate him. The Emperor would have already summoned him into the palace and personally interrogated him. Li Zhixing thought of the questions Qin Ning had asked him and his heart fell back into his stomach. He was just an incompetent little eunuch, what did he know? Qin Ning and Xiao Ru turned the corner and arrived at a place where there was no one. She took out the red envelope that Li Zhixing had given her from her sleeve and opened it. There was only a thin piece of paper inside. So stingy. Xiao Ru could not help flattening her lips. She recognized that it was the banknote of the largest bank in the capital. But he only gave her one and it was at most 200 silver coins. Stingy? Qin Ning revealed a faint smile. She took out the banknote and waved it in front of Xiao Ru. My God, it's actually gold. An entire 100 gold coins. Xiao Ru finally realized that it was not a banknote, but rather a 100 gold coins banknote. Her eyes suddenly popped out and began to shine. Who would have thought that I would make a small fortune on this trip out of the palace? This Surly is really generous, giving out 100 gold coins in one go. Xiao Ru, this is for you. Qin Ning smiled as she handed the gold banknote over to Xiao Ru. This servant can't take it, this is too much. Xiao Ru did not dare take it. This 100 gold coins was worth at least a few thousand silver coins. If I say take it, then take it. Since this is ill-gotten money, you can keep it as your dowry. Qin Ning giggled and stuffed the gold banknote into Xiao Ru's hands. Hearing the word dowry, Xiao Ru's face could not help turning red. Of course she knew that in this era, a woman's dowry represented her status. She was a maid, so if she did not have a dowry, she would be looked down upon by her husband's family. But if she had a large dowry, then she would be looked down upon. But if she had a large dowry, then she would be looked up by others. Eldest Miss, I don't want to. I will never marry in this life. I will always follow Eldest Mississippi. I won't marry anyone, she said with a firm expression. Silly girl. Qin Ning smiled and put away the gold bills. She pinched her cheeks and said, all right, then I'll help you put them away first. Chapter 1177. Although Xiao Ru was not that smart, she was simple and pure, wholeheartedly treating her well. Whenever she thought of her, she would feel touched and warm. Qin Ning had already treated Xiao Ru like her own little sister. Her heart was thinking that no matter what, she would find a good home for Xiao Ru, letting her live a peaceful and happy life without any worries. Young miss, aren't we going back to the palace? Xiao Ru found that Qin Ning was leading her through the streets, heading east. Returning to the palace should be heading west. Of course not. We're going to Dr. Zhang's palace now. I want to see Xiao Bai's condition and see my master. Qin Ning pulled Xiao Ru faster. Hearing that they were going to Dr. Zhang's palace, Xiao Ru's eyes lit up. She giggled and clapped her hands. Going to Dr. Zhang's palace, that's great. Great? What's so great about it? Qin Ning turned around and looked at her with a smile. You want to see Xiao Si, right? That's right, this servant has a lot of things to say to Xiao Si. Our experience on this road was very exciting. I believe that Xiao Si will be stunned listening to it. It was always him telling me stories before, but now I can finally tell him stories. Xiao Ru's eyes lit up with excitement and her little face turned red. She was innocent and did not know how to hide her feelings at all. She liked him, then she liked him. Whatever she thought in her heart, she would say it, not hiding it at all. Qin Ning gave a slight sigh in her heart. She really envied Xiao Ru's frankness, she couldn't do it herself. The two of them arrived at Dr. Zhang's palace. The gatekeeper saw that the two of them were wearing eunuch robes and thought that they were eunuchs sent by the palace, so he let them in. Chen Ning brought Xiao Ru to a familiar room in the back courtyard. Before they could even enter, she saw Zhui Feng come out of the room and block the door with a vigilant look. "Who are you? Where do you work? How come I've never seen you before?" He had followed Mo Chuan for 10 years and he had seen almost everyone in the palace. Whether it was the guards or the eunuchs, the old or the young, perhaps he couldn't remember their names, but he had an impression of each person's face. Seeing Chen Ning and Xiao Ru disguised as eunuchs, he couldn't help being stunned. He felt that they looked familiar, but he was sure that there had never been two eunuchs in the palace before. Xiao Ru's mouth flattened and her nose turned up. She fiercely rolled her eyes at him and then turned around, ignoring him. She still remembered the last time he ignored her. She swore that if she spoke to him again, she would be the son of AB***. Zhui Feng was stunned for a second, feeling that this little eunuch's expression was very familiar. He took a closer look and recognized Xiao Ru, then he recognized Chen Ning. "This subordinate greets the Empress." He quickly bowed down. Gu Qingze knew in his heart that he could cure Chu Xiaobai's body, but his heart, he could not cure it. Unless he could find the key to unlock the lock in his heart, he might lie on the bed without knowing anything for the rest of his life, becoming a living dead. At this time he found that after Chen Ning came in with just a soft call, Chu Xiaobai's eyelashes trembled a bit. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.